Of yours from high school. She ran into some financial difficulty some time ago and approached you about lending her some money.
Yes, Judge.
You were a good friend. You lent her the money, $3,500. She didn't pay you back. You want your money back.
Yes.
Ms. Lugo says that you were a good friend to her. You gave her $3,500. You would come into some money. There was never any discussion of payback. As far as she was concerned, it was a gift.
That's true. Differ.
When did you graduate from high school, Miss Lugo?
In June of 2001.
And between June of 2001 and the date of this loan or gift, which was on what date?
Last year, around August or July.
How often did you see each other?
After high school, we didn't see each other because we stopped being friends. And after she had a really bad car accident, her mom came and I started being her friend again. That's when we started.
What year?
I honestly do not recall what year she had a car accident.
What year?
It was in 2002, Your Honor.
Now, tell me about the day you approached Miss Serrano with your money troubles.
I did not approach her. I was just telling her my problems that I had with my family.
Shh, I don't... Listen, if you interrupt again, I'm going to dismiss your case. Do you understand?
Yes, sorry.
Go ahead.
I just told her I was having really hard times with my parents. I was having a lot of financial problems.
What kind of financial problems were you having, Miss Lugo?
My mom stopped making the payments, so they took my car from me.
How old are you?
23.
Why was your mother making your car payments for you?
Because we're both on the loan, and I was giving her the money, and she was making the payments out of her account.
What were you working for at the time?
Bay Cities National Bank.
So why weren't you paying the money directly?
Because that was just an arrangement that I had with my mom.
Your money?
I'm not saying she stole the money. I'm just saying that she wasn't making the payments, and they took the car from me.
So you're saying that if you gave your mother the money and your mother wasn't making the car payments,
she was using it for something else.
That she stole your money?
I guess.
And you told Ms. Serrano that your mother stole your money and they repossessed your car?
I told Patricia the problems that I was having with my parents and why they took my car from me.
Miss Lugo, I don't hear that that's a problem that you're having with your parents. If I believe what you're telling me, which I don't, you're telling me that your mother stole the money that you were giving her for your car loan and using it for her own purposes, and therefore they repossessed your car and you wanted to get it back.
Right.
Now, is that what you want me to believe?
That's the truth. That's exactly how everything's always been.
When did you move out of your mother's house?
Early September.
So you stayed in your mother's house another year after she stole your money?
Actually,
see where I'm going? So you had more financial difficulties than just this alleged theft by your mother of your money.
I couldn't just leave my house and just leave everything, like all my parents and my sisters behind.
Well, if I were living with somebody that stole my money and as a result of that my car was repossessed, I certainly wouldn't live there.
In June, I actually drove to Vegas and I was going to move over there with my cousin.
That's June 2006. We're still talking about 10 months that you were living with your mother, the thief, if I believe you, which I don't.
I really didn't have a choice. I mean, I must.
Okay, you're 23 years old. You always have a choice. Okay, now I'm going to get to you, Miss Serrano. Now that I'm getting the personalities in order.
Yes.
Tell me what happened when she approached you in August of 2005 about this money.
Well, she told me the story that her car had gotten repossessed.
Did she tell you how it got repossessed?
Well, she didn't give me a straight answer. I never really did get straight answers from her.
That's a lie.
Don't interrupt. Go ahead.
You know, she came to me, she said, Patty, I haven't been able to make the payments. My mom and my dad aren't helping me out. I just don't have anywhere else to go to for money.
That's not true.
And I said, well, if you need help, feel free to come to me. She said, well, thank you so much. And a couple of days later, she came to me. She said, Patty, I need to take you up on your offer. Can you lend me $3,500? And I said, sure thing, I'll write you a check. And I'm not too sure if it was a day or two later that she said, it's too much trouble to go about, you know, with the check. I can't cash it. She even told me that her mom had found the check and was questioning her about the check.
That's not true.
Why, you know, why I was giving her a check for $3,500. And she said, well, I'll give you back the check, and can you please give me $3,500 in cash? I said, wow, you know, I'm like, okay, let me see what I can work out. And I went to the bank, withdrew $3,500 cash.
Let me see from your bank.
Yeah, it's right here. It's highlighted in yellow.
Where did you get all this money from?
I was involved in a very serious car accident in 2002, and I got a small settlement out of it.
A large settlement.
Oh, that's interesting, Miss Lugo. Did you say a large settlement? How large?
I don't know.
When you said it was a large settlement, you must know something about the settlement.
That's all she would always say. She got a large settlement. Never wanted to ask
I never
how much.
told you anything.
Shh. When did she tell you about this large settlement?
After she was recovering from her injuries.
When did you get the settlement?
Sometime in 2004.
You still have any of the money left?
Yes, I do. Some in investments.
Good. So you gave her $3,500 in cash.
Yes.
And what was the arrangement about paying you back?
She said, okay, Patty, you know I wouldn't have done this if I really didn't need it. Believe me, I'm going to have this money to you tops the end of the year when I get my bonus from the bank.
That's not true.
So I said, okay, you know what?
What part of keep quiet don't you understand?
I didn't see the money. She said, well, you know, I just need a couple of more months, whatever. And I said, okay, you know, just don't forget about it. You know, I'm being your friend here.
When for the first time, Miss Lugo, did the plaintiff ask for this money back?
Early September.
That's a lie.
So what part don't you understand?
Sorry, Your Honor.
Tell me about the conversation when she asked you for the money back.
She started calling me at work and she started emailing me at work.
What would she say when she called?
She was just calling me, telling me that she needed to meet me somewhere.
When did she, for the first time, ask you for the money back? Answer my question.
I believe her first email was September 7th.
That's not true.
Shh. Next time you're gone. Do you understand?
Yeah.
I assume you want me to consider giving you your money back.
Yes, please.
Then don't do it again. September 6th, and what did she say in the email? Do you have a copy of that email?
No, I don't.
Do you have a copy of the email?
Yes.
I want to see the email from September 6th.
She emailed me a promissory note that she wanted me to sign, that saying that I owed her the money, because.
Shh. Well, he emailed her, and you said to her that you planned on giving her the money.
Yeah, she was calling me at work nonstop, and she was just harassing me.
No, this has nothing to do with a response to harassment.
That's only the email that she gave you, but she didn't tell you about the phone calls that she was making to work.
I just want to see the emails. This is Wednesday, September 6th, and it's a lovely email. Absolutely lovely. You're happy for her. You're happy that she's happy. Hey, I'm not sure what's gone wrong between us again, but I really appreciate everything you have done for me and the times you've been there for me. I guess we are once again going our own separate roads. If it's the money thing, it's stopping you, don't worry. I will give it to you. Do me a favor. Please do not email me at the bank. I get in trouble for receiving personal emails.
My manager talked to me, and she was telling me that I was receiving too many personal emails. She emailed me.
Listen to me. She wants her money back.
Yeah, after she was trying to get with my boyfriend, she was trying to hook up with my boyfriend, and I confronted her about it. Until then is when she came back and wanted me to sign a promissory note and said that the gift that she gave me for $3,500 was then the loan.
I don't see why somebody who doesn't look like they're rolling in dough would give you $3,500 and not expect to be repaid at some point. Not necessarily in a week, not necessarily in a month or 6 months or even a year. But someday, within a reasonable period of time, when you got your act together, if you ever get your act together, she expected her money back. And to stand there at this point and say, well, she tried to get over on my boyfriend, and that wasn't right, and therefore I'm not paying her a dime, that's the wrong thing to do. It's not the moral thing to do. You want to end a relationship with her? Terrific. Do it. You're not friends anymore? You don't want to be friends anymore? Fine. But she was there for you when you needed her, and you're supposed to do the moral right thing and pay her her money. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $3,500. That's all. Friend, according to your complaint, he assaulted you, causing you to have medical bills. He made it so because of the stress that he created by his actions that you couldn't work, thereby causing you to lose your apartment and the lease. He owes you for the assault, for pain and suffering, for your medical bills, etc., etc., etc. Mr. Byman says that you were a nag, you bugged him over his drug use and his lack of employment, that you pushed him and things sort of got out of control.
Correct.
How long were you, Mr. Byman, together?
We started dating on February 17th of '05. And soon got engaged after that.
Are you engaged now?
No.
To anyone?
No.
So this baby is his?
Yes.
When did you move in together?
We moved to San Diego in April, and we were in a hotel room trying to find an apartment for 3 months, and then finally got an apartment on June 6th of '05, and we were there up until end of October when we both were evicted.
But he wasn't living there when you were actually evicted from the apartment.
He was in jail.
And when was he incarcerated?
He was incarcerated 3 different times for
The last time?
The last time was October 12th.
The arrest was for an assault on you. Those charges were somehow disposed of, but he had prior arrest warrants, so he was held.
Technically, it was October 8th, and I had a court case in Sacramento on October 10th. After I couldn't make my court appearance because I was in custody in San Diego, Sacramento put a hold on me. I spent 10 days down in San Diego, and then finally they transported me up to Sacramento to take care of my case up there.
What kind of case did you have there?
I think it was 475 of the Penal Code.
Don't play with me.
It was intent to defraud, ma'am.
Intent to defraud who?
A bank.
Were you sentenced yet?
Yes.
To what?
90 days of work project and 4 years of probation.
Is that the only outstanding case you had?
When I was arrested one of the 3 times, they tested me for drugs and I came up positive.
How long have you had a drug problem, Mr. Byman?
Off and on for years.
How many years? 10?
Started smoking weed at 13 years old, so probably since then.
How old are you now?
26.
13. But you graduated from marijuana to?
Methamphetamine.
Did Miss Garcia, was she aware that you had a drug problem?
Yes.
Did she have a drug problem?
No.
That was poor judgment on your part.
Thought I could help him and save him. Move him to San Diego and get him away from the drugs and the crime.
Well, that's fine. You can try to save him. You don't have to have a baby in the bargain.
Yeah.
Now, according to what I read, Mr. Byman, in the complaint and in your answer, a lot of the fighting that occurred while you were together was because of your drug use and lack of employment. Is that right?
That was part of it, but just money was also a big issue.
Lack of employment.
Yeah.
And then you said something interesting in here. You said, well, at some point you went into a drug rehabilitation program.
Yes.
But you and I both know, Mr. Byman, that when you have a 13-year drug habit, a 10-day rehab program doesn't cut it. Like putting a Band-Aid on an open heart surgery. It doesn't work. Have you since gone into a long-term residential program?
Actually, I'm looking right now.
Well, good luck.
Thank you.
So you want to tell me what happened in October?
In October, we had many nights where I stayed up trying to help him through his problems. And that night, I had come down on him saying that what is something bad going to have to happen to you to get you to do the things that you need to do. And I can't marry you until you get a job. I'm on disability.
What's the nature of your disability?
I have lupus, and I've had 2 major back surgeries. I've had actually 7 surgeries in the last 5 years. And so, therefore, my benefits would be taken away if I married him. And that was one of the major fights. That night, he got very forceful with me. And
look at me.
I slipped out of his arms and got out and left. I left a message on the phone. I said, are you going to stay? I need to know. He never called. I decided that I would just come back in the morning. When I got there with my girlfriend, he was still there. He had slipped out the door. We passed each other and didn't say a word to each other. Basically, we were wanting to find out if he was using still at that point, and it was pretty obvious to me. I stayed there for about 4 hours, got some things ready, then took my girlfriend home. I was gone for about 2 hours, came back, and at that
What'd you come back for?
I had nowhere else to go. I was pregnant and exhausted. And
why didn't you stay with your girlfriend?
Why didn't I stay with her? Didn't even ask. It was the apartment. I thought he was gone. He left when we were passing.
What makes you think that he was gone? Just because he walked out then? He didn't walk out with
he was leaving. He had his stuff packed and he was leaving.
He had stuff packed with him when he left?
Yes, he said he was leaving.
The only thing I had with me, Your Honor, was a laptop.
He had a backpack, suitcase.
All your clothes there?
Yes, clothes.
Okay.
All my...
So you went back, Miss Garcia?
Yes, I went back. My dog.
You went back?
I went back to my apartment.
You went back. Don't make excuses. Who is this?
This is my mother.
Don't make excuses to your mother. You went back.
Yeah, of course I went back. My girlfriend did not have a place to stay for me to stay.
Go to your mother's house.
My mother lives 600 miles away.
I don't care. Get on a plane. If you're afraid of somebody, that's what you do. You don't go back to the apartment, knowing that all of his clothes and stuff is still there. I wasn't that afraid of him
at the time.
Okay, so you went back.
So I went back.
Okay.
And he showed up. He was actually in the apartment, hiding behind the bedroom wall, and jumped out at me. And that's when he held me down, saying something to me, just listen, and was holding me down. He would pick me up and throw me on the couch, and then I would slip out of his hold, and then he would catch me and do it again, and then catch me and do it again. And that went on for about 45 minutes. I remember screaming through the window, help, help, at the top of my lungs, that I didn't have a voice afterwards. I finally, don't know how, but after he hit me in the stomach, I don't know if it was with his fist or with something, but I couldn't breathe.
Did you hit her?
No, I didn't, Your Honor.
Go ahead.
I was able to run through the hallway. I had my keys hanging up in the hallway there on this caddy and grabbed them and ran out the door. He followed me outside down the stairs and proceeded to want to hold me down. And then I think he realized that we were outside. And I was crawling to the car to get into the car to lock myself in the car. And my neighbor saw me, called the police, ambulance came. I was in sinus tac. Went into trauma for about 6 hours. They kept me over the night, watched the baby, and make sure the baby was okay. It was about 5 months pregnant. So, which the baby's fine, thank goodness. But we have not been together since.
Go ahead.
I've tried to get him to help pay these bills off. I've been paying them little by little what I can.
Which bills?
The apartment, I haven't started paying the apartment bill yet, which is the eviction and the attorney's fees and what we had owed on the last 2 months, or what he had owed on the last 2 months, actually. He never paid rent, not once. That and the Time Warner Cable, SD Genie, cell phone bills, you name it. I'm paying all of it. We still owe about $11,000 right now, and I'm currently just paying $25, $5 when I can.
Well, show me. Show me that you're paying them.
Let's see. Here's a bill for, I mean, there's just 1,000 of them. The bill for the TV, the bill for...
I don't want you to show me the bills. I want you to show me that you paid them.
Yeah, it's got receipts attached to them.
Great. Can I see it, please?
These are the receipts. Let's see here. Then I've got my ambulance bill. I don't have the hospital bill yet.
You have the medical bill there?
I have the ambulance bill. I don't have the hospital bill.
No. What I want you to answer, Ms. Garcia, if you are on disability, which means you also have medical coverage based upon your disability, I want to see what the disability covered. You have Medicaid?
They haven't covered this. I just got this in the mail. And it's Medi-Cal, yes.
Medi-Cal. Well, then that has to be submitted to them.
Yes, it does. I think he should have to pay it, though. Why should the state have to pay something that he caused?
You want a check written to the state, written to the
Sure.
ambulance? Well, that means that he's going to give you less money once this baby is born. Wouldn't that be stupid?
Yeah, like he's going to give me any money.
Wouldn't that be stupid?
Would.
All right. Let's not play around with each other.
The bill that I'm here for, the $5,000 bill, I have not started paying on this because I don't have the money. That's why we're here. I'm suing him for this money.
What bill?
This is our apartment eviction bill. We got evicted. There's attorney's fees. It ends up being $5,493. He assumes that I'm going to pay this. I'm not.
Oh, you're not. You're not. You're just going to pay half.
I've paid half since we moved into that apartment.
No. That's your choice, Ms. Garcia, my dear. That's your choice. If you chose to stay in that apartment and you chose to move in with him knowing that he had a drug problem, you were trying to save him, your saving him didn't work out, I'm not interested in the fact that you assumed the responsibility of paying the rent despite the fact that you had an agreement that you were each going to contribute half. Just as if it didn't work out between the two of you and you had to stop working or doing whatever you do because you were pregnant, I wouldn't permit him to come to court and say, well, didn't work out. I paid all the rent. We had an agreement that she would pay half the rent. She stopped working. So I chose to continue to pay the rent. You even went back there in October hoping that it would all work out after you left the apartment and came back with your friend. Now, I'd like you to tell me your version of what happened on the 8th of October.
Actually, it started on the 7th. We got in an argument about the money that we owed when we went to court for the eviction. They gave us 2 weeks when we went to arbitration.
Hold on a second. You mean you were still together at the time that you were being evicted?
Yes.
Is that right?
We had gone to court during the first month that they approached us and put a note on our door.
Miss Garcia, you understand what I'm saying to you. Living in the apartment, the landlord moved to evict you for non-payment of rent?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, I paid half the rent.
Shh. Now it becomes clear. Go ahead.
Well, we got in an argument over what we were going to do. I was trying to come up with the money some way, somehow. Couldn't.
Look at me. Don't look at the desk.
Sorry. Well,
you're still looking at the desk.
Force of habit. I
Don't.
apologize. Anyway, we argued about the money, how we were going to come up with it. Things got loud, and she ended up just taking off for the night, at which this point I stayed the night, and she came back, like she said, with her friend, which then I grabbed just my laptop and like a jacket and stuff and just took off for the day. Came back around 5 in the evening, which point she started screaming and yelling, like, what are you doing here, you sick? I told her I was just trying to get my couple things and go, and that's when everything started escalating, and she slapped me in the face and then scratched the other side of my face, started throwing objects at me, at which point then I did restrain her from hitting me with anything else. And at that point, she started screaming, help me, and that went on for a little while longer. Then she ran downstairs, like she said, and I got arrested.
You understand that you are responsible for half of what the landlord is owed. You understand that?
Yes.
Okay, that's $2,718.
Well, I didn't pay for either the down payment, the first month, or the second month. Her mother actually paid for all that.
And?
I think she's entitled to that, at least, you know, since...
You mean she's entitled to what the landlord owes her?
Altogether, probably, yes, because I didn't pay for anything, like she said. I mean...
I'm not interested in that, sir. Just let's understand that. I couldn't be less interested in what her mother put down, what she put down as a down payment. Those were their choices. Understanding that you had a drug problem, that you lost your job the first week that you moved into the apartment. What you should have done was to move out the first week that you moved into the apartment if you weren't resolving your drug problem. I'm not interested in what her mother did and what she did. I'm interested in what's owed the landlord. So if what's left on the lease is $5,437.17, you're responsible for half of that. But the check will go directly to the landlord. You have to cover the rest. $2,718. Check will be written to the landlord. Do you understand?
Yes.
Good. That's all, thank you. But you were having a romantic relationship with the defendant's husband.
Yes, Your Honor.
I assume this was the husband.
Yes, Your Honor.
This was about a year ago?
A little over a year, yes, ma'am.
Miss Kedward lost it with you one day, came to where you were staying, and assaulted you.
Yes, Your Honor.
She admits that she assaulted you. She also admits that she pled guilty to a simple assault, and she received a fine. Her defense to your action for damages for both your medical bills and your pain and suffering is that you weren't injured. She is counterclaiming for her medical bills, she says, because you've caused her a lot of stress. When did you meet Miss Kedward's husband?
About July 9th of 2005.
Where?
At my mother's house.
What relationship does he have with your mother?
They're the next-door neighbors to my mom.
Were they both living together at the time?
Yes, they were.
Well, when did you start a relationship with Mr. Kedward?
After he told me that he had asked Tammy for a divorce.
But they were still together?
Sort of, kind of.
They were still living under the same roof?
They were living, yes.
Big mistake on your part. Big. When did you start the relationship?
What exact date?
Yeah.
That it turned romantic?
Yes.
Was August 28th of 2005.
So it didn't take long. Now, when did Miss Kedward assault you?
On August 31st.
Tell me about it.
I was over visiting my mother. My car was parked in the back driveway. She came over and spray painted my car with some obscenities and bright orange paint. I saw her do it. We went back inside to call the police. She knocked on the front door, asked me to come outside. My mother came outside with me. She was yelling all kinds of profanities. And
that's not true.
And I was standing between her and my mother tried to explain some stuff to her, and I was looking at my mother. She reached over, grabbed the back of my hair, yanked, jumped on top of me, punched me. Blood went everywhere. Meanwhile,
punched you where?
In the nose, and then punched me again in the cheek. Meanwhile, my mother managed to pull her off of me, and my 82-year-old grandmother was standing on the porch calling the police.
And you were arrested?
No.
Taken into custody?
No.
Did you press charges?
Yes, I did.
Okay, Miss Kedward, why don't you tell me what happened on the 31st of August?
I drove up from work. I got out of the car, and she came out of her mother's house and said
that
something.
Is a lie, Your Honor.
Listen to me. I cut her off when she interrupted you. Don't speak until she's finished. Go ahead.
I got out of the car, and she came out of the front door and said something that I didn't understand what it was that she said. Nevertheless, she said something. And I just went inside, and I called my husband, told my husband that she was saying something to me.
But you didn't know what?
I didn't know what. It was something.
Well, why would you, just a second, Ms. Kedward, why would you call your husband if she said something that you didn't understand?
Because I had found out 3 days prior that there was something going on between them.
Okay, did you confront your husband with it?
Yes.
And what did he tell you?
He told me the truth. He told me that they were having a relationship, but that it was more as a friend relationship, that he didn't say that it was not intimate. He just told me that basically they had been doing a lot of talking on the phone.
So when you came home on the 31st and you claimed Miss Lampert said something to you, called your husband, and your husband said what?
He said, look, I don't know what's going on. Why don't you just go over there and talk to her about it, and y'all figure it out, and then you call me.
Is that what you said to her? Why don't you just go over there and ask her? Just that's either a yes or no.
Yes.
That was the first time that I ever thought of going over there.
So your cheating husband tells you to go over to the woman's house and to talk it out with her.
Yes.
And you'd listen to him.
Well, it's not that I listened to him. It's more that I thought, go over there. Sounds like a great idea. Why don't I just go over there and find out exactly what she said? And it was probably not the greatest decision in the world, but
well, first thing that you did, you went over and you sprayed her car because that you paid for, right?
Yes.
Okay, so you painted her car before you went to ask her.
Correct.
What she had said that you didn't hear.
Right.
And then what happened?
I went over and
You sprayed her car.
I sprayed her car, went back inside and...
Back inside where?
My house.
What happened to speaking to her and about finding out what happened?
That was after.
So then you came out again, worked up a really good mad.
I was infuriated, to say the least.
Fine. So you came out.
I had asked her numerous times, very nicely, please leave my husband alone.
Why didn't you ask him?
I asked him.
So, and what did he say?
She was the instigator.
Stand up. How tall are you?
6'3",
How much do you weigh?
260.
What do you do for a living?
Mechanic.
Strong?
I guess so.
Can you walk around?
Yes.
You can walk away from her, can't you?
Yes, ma'am.
Sit down. Get what I mean? Shh. Get what I mean?
Yes, ma'am, I do. And
listen, there's only one person that owes you the responsibility and the respect and has taken a vow.
You're exactly right.
That's him.
You're right.
Not her.
I felt like if she had any compassion or any feeling that she would have backed off and she would have had respect, at least for my child.
He's supposed to have respect for your child.
I understand that. I truly believe that he did make a bad decision.
Right. But so why did you go over? So you went over there, you assaulted her, and you lost it.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Well, then you have to suffer for that. Okay, Ms. Kedwin, what kind of consequence did the criminal justice system impose when you pled guilty to assault?
I had a fine of $341 and a Class C misdemeanor.
Tell me about the surgery that you had 3 months later.
I had actually 2 surgeries to try to correct. I was having trouble breathing through the right side of my nose.
Can I see the medical report?
Yes,
Your Honor?
Yeah.
She told my husband, he asked her the next day after the assault, are you okay? And she told him, it's no big deal. The same thing happened to me about a year ago when a girl hit me in a bar.
Okay.
That's a lie, Your Honor.
Just a second. Let's say that's true. What difference does it make?
So what's to say if she had any surgeries that it wasn't to correct what had happened then?
It's possible it was. That doesn't leave you. That doesn't. Shh, quiet. That doesn't let you off the hook.
I understand.
She doesn't have to sue for any medical expenses. She can just sue for pain and suffering.
I understand.
Good. Okay, so the first study date in the emergency room was September 1st, and it did say previous surgical changes are noted. Okay, so you had previous surgeries in your nose. Is that right?
From 92.
Okay, good. Now, after this happened on August 31st, did you continue a relationship with Mr. Kedward?
Yes, I did.
For how long?
It actually ended August 1st of 2006.
I don't think that's true, Your Honor.
Yeah, that's a bunch of bull.
No, you were at my mother's house.
Shh, listen to me. Whether it lasted 9 months or 10 months or 12 months, it doesn't make any difference. It lasted beyond that. Was Mr. Kedward living with his wife during that time?
He went back to her the end of November of 2005.
Okay, but you continued the relationship with him months after that.
Right.
Not smart. What was he telling you all this time?
Just that he wasn't sure what he wanted and that they had a lot to work out if it was going to work and that he still loved me and he always would.
Well, Miss Lambert, why did you continue the relationship with him?
Yeah.
It's not the first time she's done this. I'm sorry.
Takes 2 to tango.
Yes, ma'am.
His feet work in both directions. If he's back with you and sweet-talking her, that's not a good thing.
The thing about it is, Your Honor, you say I'm strong physically. I'm assuming that's what you're asking. You know, what about mentally when you have a woman like this calling you all the time and not leaving you alone? Yay. Hey.
You don't really want an answer to that question, sir.
Well.
You don't want an answer to that question, Mr. Kedward.
When I asked Miss Lambert to leave my husband alone, my words to her were, for God's sakes, Marcia, I live next door to your mother. Please just stop.
She used very bad judgment.
She told me that she would be living next door to her mother.
Miss Kedward.
That's a lie.
She used very bad judgment, especially after he came home in November.
He never really left home.
Don't tell me he never really left home. Stop me seasick. Still.
Yes, ma'am.
He exercised very bad judgment. What he's trying to tell me is he may be strong physically, but mentally he's mush. That's just an excuse. What he's trying to say is, how can I withstand the wiles of Jezebel? That's ridiculous. If
That
you
was,
bought it,
that was not what I
quiet.
was saying.
Quiet. There are all kinds of temptations in this world, madam. And you hope that when you marry somebody, that they're going to be able to withstand the temptations. And if they can't, it's their fault. It's not somebody else's fault. In any event, she's suing you for $4,000.
Yes, ma'am.
That, she said, represents her medical bills. You are clearly responsible for that. I want to hear about your counterclaim. You have 1 minute.
I went to the hospital that night and was in the hospital for 2 days following. I was extremely stressed out over the whole situation. I asked her repeatedly to leave my husband alone. She told me she would do what she wanted to do, when she wanted to do it, and I lost it. And I have to admit that
I'm talking about your
I
counterclaim.
went to the hospital, and I was there for 2 days because of the immense stress that this, I don't even want to call her a woman, has put me through, that she continues to put me through to
What
this
about
day.
him? Why don't you sue him?
I married him for better, for worse, for richer, for poorer, in front of God, in front of all of our friends. And it's my choice to forgive him, and we have been through counseling.
Perfect. Listen to me. He's the one that owes you the responsibility of doing the right thing.
Me.
Doesn't she owe us to leave us alone?
I have. Excuse me?
Excuse me? Outside. Put him out.
Can I add one thing?
Yeah, sure.
I was under so much stress from the immoral actions of this person that I suffered a miscarriage. My child has had to be in counseling. I have had a lot of issues because of her, and to this day.
Because of them.
Yes, ma'am.
Because of them.
She instigated it.
Because you don't get it. You have to put it in your head. He owes you the responsibility of doing the right thing. She doesn't. He has a contract with you, moral contract and a legal contract. He violated the contract. And I would have very little sense of an obligation to mitigate your damages if Miss Lambert did not continue the relationship after November, when she knew that the two of you were trying to work things out. Miss Lambert fully understood that. From November until, she says, August of 2006, she continued a relationship with him. That's going to hurt you, Miss Lambert, because then you knew that what you were doing was interfering with a relationship, and there is a cause of action. It's a cause of action in common law called alienation of affection. That means you are contributing to alienating the affection of her husband, and you know what that's going to cost you? $4,000. So I rule in your favor on your lawsuit in the amount of $4,000. And I rule in your favor on the counterclaim in the amount of $4,000. Neither one of you are getting anything. That's it. Goodbye. Was in your home with a BB gun.
Yes, ma'am.
And Mr. Robertson, while he acknowledges the fact that he was shooting his BB gun, said that A, it's impossible for the gun to have pierced the windows of your house because it would have to go through a bunch of trees, and B, it would be impossible anyway because he's a very good shot. And he was shooting at squirrels, and he knows that because he's such a good shot, he would not have missed and damaged your property. Those are your two defenses. Is that right, sir?
Pretty much.
Tell me where I'm wrong. I like to know where I'm wrong.
Well, yeah, I might miss on occasion.
Oh.
But, like I said, we're in front of the big tree, so.
Okay. Miss Banks, have you had any trouble with Mr. Robertson before?
Yes, I have.
With what?
About 5 years ago.
Stop playing with that, please. Distracting me, and at my age, nothing should distract me when I'm trying to work. Yes.
Approximately 5 years ago, Your Honor, he installed a pool improperly in his backyard, and that pool ruptured, and the water came down my backyard because he lives here and I live here, and approximately 19,000 gallons of water came into my basement. And what I did was I asked him to come over to survey the damage. He did, and his comment was that it wasn't that bad. But because we're neighbors and I tried to handle it civilly, I settled with his insurance company for $1,200, and there was a lot more damage than that, let alone the time. And I asked him to just help me clean it up, and he refused to do that. This time, when I discovered the damage, I said I wasn't going to let it go.
Since the incident 5 years ago, I assume that the relationship between the two of you has been strained.
Yes.
What date were you shooting at squirrels, Mr. Robertson, when Miss Banks came over and told you had damaged her windows?
Oh, she never did.
Who did?
I did. This guy. I mean, I was out in the backyard one day, and he hollers at me and says, you know, you shot my garage window. I said, well, I don't know if I did, but if I did, I'll replace it. He says, don't worry about it. I just wanted you to know about it. And so ever since then, we quit shooting the BB guns.
Well, when was this, sir, that you told him he shot out the window?
It was the third week of July. His son was out shooting and actually shot over top of my head.
How old is your son?
16.
You know that you could hurt somebody with a BB gun?
If you hit somebody, it'd probably sting.
Well, if you hit him in the eye, it could blind him.
Probably could.
If you hit him in the ear, it could make him go deaf.
Probably could.
So why do you do it?
I didn't.
No, why do you let your son play with a BB gun?
Well, you know, I imagine there's probably 40, 50 kids in that neighborhood got BB guns.
I don't give a rat's behind about 40 or 50 kids. I'm asking you, why do you let your son shoot a BB gun?
Because I don't see anything wrong with it. It's my yard. If he wants to shoot a pop can or something in the backyard, you know, that's no problem. You know, this guy's saying he got one shot over his head. I doubt it. How would you know?
Because you can hear it coming through the...
You can't hear a BB.
Mr. Robertson.
Yeah, it's like, may I say something?
Yes.
I mean, it's like we're talking about the swimming pool. You know, 19,000 gallons of water didn't go in her basement. You know, I did go and survey the damage. It didn't look that bad.
Went into her basement?
My insurance company took it.
When I'm speaking, you see, you may be able... Is this your wife?
Yeah.
You may be able to interrupt her. Don't interrupt me.
No, I was speaking.
No. But when I start to speak, Mr. Robertson, you have to stop. That's the way we play here in my playpen.
That's fine.
Good. Can I see the damage to your house, please?
Yes, ma'am. I have police reports as well, if you would like to see those.
I would.
And then also I've included estimates.
Good. How many windows?
3 windows, and then the truck windshield.
Well, either you or your son have lousy aim, sir.
Would you mind asking this man if he did agree, you know, that I told him I'd take care of the window, and he said, don't worry about it, I just wanted you to be aware of it? Because after that date, we never shot anymore.
When you first...
Shh, don't answer him.
It's like rock damage to me. No BB did that.
Yes.
Judge Judy, I would like to add, originally, the first incident he did offer to pay. The second incident was August the 11th, the date of the police report.
And on the second incident, how many windows were shot out?
That's when we discovered the damage of the second additional, the bedroom window, and then the truck window.
Got it. Still have the BB gun, Mr. Robertson?
Yeah.
Still let your son use it?
Like I said, nobody shot it since he said I shot his garage window out.
Well, you don't know that, sir. You do work, don't you? You do
No,
work.
I don't.
You don't work?
No.
Why not?
I'm disabled.
What's the nature of your disability?
Back. I've
have a
had
bad
5 back
back.
surgeries.
Really? How can you shoot a BB gun with a bad back?
A BB gun?
Yeah, how can you pick up a BB gun?
Well, how much do you think it weighs?
It's kind of hard to shoot. Well, incapacitating. It seems to be if you can do this, you can sit at a desk and answer a phone.
Well, I'm just saying, I offered to pay for it. He said, don't worry about it. And that was the end of the shooting.
He doesn't want you to, no, listen to me. He doesn't want you to worry about it. I want you to pay for it. There's a difference.
I offered to pay for it.
Good.
Ask my wife.
Oh, I won't. She has to go home with you. For that, she has my sincere condolences.
And like I said, you know, I thought you were innocent until you're proven guilty.
That's what we just did.
No, you didn't.
Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $1,200. Thank you. That's all.
It don't matter.
Gilmore was a friend of yours. You had been friends for a long time, according to what I read in your complaint. A group of girls decided to go on a trip. Where were you going?
We were going on a Mexican cruise.
For how many days?
A week.
And what was the cost to each girl?
It was $325 each.
Very reasonable for a whole week.
Yes.
Did they feed you on this trip for $325 for a week?
I actually don't know. I didn't go.
Do they feed you?
Yes, they do.
In any event, you paid Miss Gilmore your $325.
Yes.
She was making the arrangements. How old are you?
I'm 19.
And you?
19.
Am I correct that someone in the party had to be 21 in order for the girls to go?
Yes.
What you tell me in your complaint is that one of the girls, I believe her name was Ashley, was the 21-year-old, she backed out.
Yes.
So now you have a predicament. You've paid your $325, as have other girls, and unless you found someone else who was 21 years old, you couldn't go.
Yes.
So according to you, you waited for a while to see if somebody else was going to go and somebody else was going to go. So you made other plans for that period of time. That's what you say. And according to you, Miss Gilmore decided to take her brother.
Yes, well, actually...
Decided to take her brother. He was going to pay for himself. And his brother had a friend whose name was?
Gaius.
Gaius?
Gaius Mike. He goes by Mike.
Good. His name was Mike. Mike went on your ticket.
Yes.
And you want the money.
Yes.
Didn't Mike pay?
No.
Why not?
Because we had made oral agreement that Mike was going to pay after the cruise, but Brittany showed up at my house the day before we left saying that she wanted it then.
Just a minute. Who did Mike make the arrangement with? With you?
With me. He made it with me and she made it with me.
Just a second. So Mike made the arrangement with you that he was going to pay for the trip.
Yes.
And you told her that Mike was paying for the trip. That was your agreement with him.
Yes.
Now she's suing you because you told her you're going to get your money for this ticket. That's what you told her.
Yes.
Go get the money from Mike. She has no way of suing him because they did not have an agreement. The agreement was between the two of you. You have a cause of action against him if he breached that agreement and didn't give you the money.
Yes, but since she had come to my house saying that she wanted the money earlier than she had expected, I figured if she felt that she needed the money before, even though he wasn't able to provide it for her, she should have called the travel agent herself and said that, because what she said was she wanted her ticket or the money.
Madam. She could have done this and she would have done that, and if she did this, she wouldn't have been in that. She had an agreement with you, and the agreement was you were going to give her back her money because your brother and his friend were going on this trip with you. And if the friend stiffed you, sue him. He went, he had a good time. I assume he ate, right? Well, I'm sure his company wasn't that terrific that entitled him to a free ride, right? Right, Mr. Gilmore? You wouldn't give him a free ride.
Ma'am, she canceled out at the very last minute.
Are you following me? Your daughter made an agreement with her that she would get her money back. She has to do that. Now, since she did not gain anything herself, perhaps, unless she likes Mike, she has an absolute right to turn around and sue Mike for the cost of the ticket because he promised to pay her, and he didn't. She may have had a lot of other options. She doesn't have to exercise all those other options. She had an agreement with your daughter. Do you get it?
Yes.
Good. Now, you have a counterclaim for harassment and the expenses surrounding harassment. Ms. Gilmore, you want to tell me about that?
Yes, when she had decided 4 days we had agreed that Mike was going to take her place. We had made the agreement that he was going to pay after, and she kept constantly calling saying that she wanted the money earlier, and I told her that I didn't have it and that Mike hadn't given it to me, and she kept calling me, harassing me, and showing up. She showed up at my house the day before saying she wanted the money or the ticket, and the option was that she could call the travel agent and say that she wanted her place back because I didn't have the money. So she was constantly calling me, and then after she had left our house, she had called our mutual friend who also went, inquiring about my car, wondering where my car was going to be where we were on the cruise, and I just bought a brand new car, so I was wondering why she wanted to know where my car was.
Just a second, how do you know Brittany called your friend?
My friend, the one who went on the cruise, told me.
Well, you can't tell me that, madam, that's hearsay.
Okay.
What else?
So, but basically she had called me constantly, leaving me messages, called me when I was at work.
That's what happens when she feels as if you were stiffing her money. That's not a cause of action for harassment. You have to give her the $325, and I suggest that you and your father, when you leave here, you go to small claims court and you sue Mike for the trip that he took, that he enjoyed, that so far he didn't pay for. Right?
Right.
As between the two of you, you owe her $325. Do you understand?
Yes.
Good. Goodbye. Claim that the defendant, who was an old boyfriend of yours, owes you some money.
Correct.
For a loan that you made to him. And the purpose of the loan was to have an old car fixed.
Yes.
This was a specialty car?
It's just, it's going to be a classic soon. It's just a car I always wanted
Me
to fix
too.
up.
What kind?
I clean windows on high rises.
That's a pretty dangerous job.
Yeah.
How long have you been doing that?
Like 7, 8 years now.
Make a good living?
Yeah, except when they lay you off.
Well, you don't do it when it's windy or snowing or raining.
Right.
How much do you make a year?
Anywhere from 48 to 68,000 a year.
And how many people do you support?
Just myself.
What kind of car is this that you have?
It's a 1986 Ford Mustang GT.
And your age, sir?
24 now.
Got a lot of money in the bank?
No, unfortunately.
Do you own a home?
No, I'm working on it. I'm renting an apartment for now.
Well, you make a lot of money. What do you do with all your money?
It's expensive to live in New York.
You don't put any money away?
No, I try. Not really.
You need a good woman, sir, to help you out. You also have a claim for harassment. It is your claim that he's been making harassing phone calls to you, and it's because you believe it's because you confronted his now girlfriend and told her that he was still involved with you.
She did not know about the payments. She never knew. He began dating her a week after we broke up, and she just found out about our involvement beginning of January of this year.
How did she find out?
She found a text message in his phone.
Is that right, sir?
Yes, sir, because she was harassing.
She was harassing for what?
Yeah, she was mad about the breakup, so she
She
couldn't
mad
leave
about
me
the
alone.
breakup, or did she ask you for money?
She was harassing me about everything.
Was money involved?
Yes.
These are not hard questions, sir. Now, tell me about this loan.
We were dating for about a year, and within that time, he needed some major repair work done on the car. It was a car that both of us were using for transportation, or rather him. I don't drive. I don't have a license.
So he was driving you around?
Yes. I used to live with him, and where we live, you cannot get around unless you have a car.
How long did you live together?
About 9 months.
Where were you living at the time? In your apartment?
Staying with my mom at the time.
So how were you living together?
She
Where
allowed-
did you live together?
In his bedroom.
In his mother's house?
In his mother's house.
Just a second. In his mother's house. So neither one of you were paying any rent?
I did I tried to give them money as much as I could.
Don't tell me tried. I'm not interested in your trying. So you weren't paying any rent? And you weren't paying any rent?
We were, when we could.
Well, sir, if you make $50,000 a year, it seems to me you could help out with your own rent. What does your mother do for a living?
She's a stay-at-home mom.
Well, how does she support herself?
Her boyfriend.
And she had the two of you living there.
Yes, correct.
Tell me about the loan.
He needed some major repair work done on the car. The car was not running, and he asked if he could use my credit card because I don't have any money except for my credit card, and he told me he would pay me back. So I lent him the credit card, and within that time, he was making payments to me weekly.
To you or to the credit card?
He was giving them to me, and I was paying the credit card because the credit card was in my name.
How much was he giving you?
Anywhere from $100 to $200 a week.
Tell me when you actually put the bill on your credit card. What was the date?
Between June and July, 7 transactions were put on the credit card in the amount of about $5,000.
I'd like to see it.
Sure.
Who had physical possession of the credit card?
I did.
So how would this money be placed on the credit card?
A few times I went with him to use the credit card, and there were a few times where I just gave him the card. And I never used the credit card, Your Honor, with the exception of maybe 1 or 2 times. It was all of the car repairs.
Who has the car now?
It's his car. He has it.
When did you break up?
August 26th of 2006.
So shortly after the car was taken
Yes.
care of. Now, Mr. Lara, I read your answer. Your answer says that you had made an arrangement with the place that was fixing your car, that you were going to pay them out.
Yes.
And she took it upon herself to go in with a credit card and pay the bill. But that's not true, because there were 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 different times that the credit card was used. So you must have known about it.
Yes, I did.
And did you say, don't do it because I'm going to pay them
Absolutely.
out?
I insisted that she didn't do it.
Each time you said, don't do it because I'm going to pay them out.
She said it's something we both need, so.
I believe that. No, I believe that. Listen to me, Mr. Lara. I believe that she said to you, listen, I use the car because she did use the car. So she said, we're both using the car, so I'm going to pay for it. Instead of paying them, pay me. And she says that you were giving her money, Mr. Lara.
Yeah, I felt bad. I didn't want her to spend so much for
Now,
a gift.
you felt bad when you were living together?
Yes.
Speak up!
Yes.
Scared to death of me or what? Are you always this low energy, sir?
Yes.
It's very hard to get excited with you, Mr. Lara. Mr. Lara, I want you to pay careful attention to all my words, sir. While you were living together, you felt badly about what she spent on the car, on your car, so you were giving her money.
Yes.
After you broke up, you stopped feeling badly, so you stopped giving her money. Is that what you're telling me?
She kept on harassing.
No, no, no. Don't tell me her. I don't want to hear harassing. I want to hear while you were living together and using the car together. Listen, I want you to follow the logic of this. You were paying her while you were together and using the car together, right?
Yes.
After you broke up with her and started to see your new girlfriend and she wasn't using the car anymore with you, you didn't feel badly anymore, so you stopped giving her money.
Well, I didn't want it to interfere with my relationship. She kept harassing me because things with her, who she was trying to get with, wasn't going well, so I think she's suing me because of the
I don't
breakup.
give a rat's behind what you think. I asked you a very simple question, and you understand my question, because I don't think there's total vacancy between your ears, sir. While you were together and both using it, you paid her for laying out the money. When you were no longer together and she wasn't using the car, you stopped paying her. That's what you're telling me. That's objective, not what you thought, what you felt. That's what happened. Doesn't that sound stupid to you?
No, because it was a gift.
Mr. Lara, I know that you have this word gift in your mind, but what you did in paying her belies the fact that it was a gift, sir. You paid her for the credit card. Hundreds and hundreds of dollars, according to her, because she's only suing you for what she claims is the balance, which is $3,400. And the total was close to $5,000 to fix the car. So you paid her a lot of money to pay down the credit card. Do you understand, sir?
Yes.
Listen, was he more exciting when you were together?
He had his moments.
Few and far between.
He has a problem with confrontation, Your Honor.
He has a problem with confrontation?
Yes.
Oh, and I love confrontation. That's why we don't get along. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $3,400. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Listen, your complaint is that Miss Jones's son, that would be this little tyke over here, vandalized your car with some sort of an implement. You want her to pay for the damage. Miss Jones says, well, she's not sure if her son did it, and if he did it, he had an accomplice of similar age, and why aren't you suing the accomplice too? That's your defense.
Yes, ma'am.
Well, Miss Jones, let me ask you this question. If you believe that your son was responsible for part of the damage, you would acknowledge that and would be prepared to pay for part of the damage. Would that be a fair statement?
Yes, ma'am.
What proof do you have that Miss Jones's son, because you didn't see it, vandalized your car?
I have a witness who says she saw him do it.
Okay. When did this happen?
July 11th at approximately 7:30, 8 a.m.
And the witness that you had would be this little girl?
Mm-hmm.
And she's 5?
Yes.
Whose child is she?
One of our other neighbors. Her name's Angela Twyman.
And what's her name?
Michaela.
Michaela, would you like to come up and talk to me?
Okay. You all right? Okay.
Hi, Michaela. Do you know who I am? You don't know? Do you know why you're here? And you don't know why you're here. Who did you come with today? Oh, I see this is going to be interesting. Do you know this little boy? Is he a friend of yours? Do you know Miss Jones? Is she a neighbor of yours? Can you talk? Can you tell me your full name? Let me hear.
Michaela.
And what's your last name, Michaela?
Michaela and Timon.
Do you want to talk to me about what happened with Miss Johnson's car? You want to tell me what happened? Okay, tell me what happened.
He spit on the car.
He spit on the car? Did you see him do that? Did you see him do anything else to the car, Michaela? What else did you see him do?
He scratched it.
What did he scratch it with?
A rock.
Did you see him with the rock in his hand? Did you have a rock in your hand? Was anybody else with him when he had the rock in his hand?
No.
But you're sure you saw him scratch the car with a rock? After you saw him scratch the car, Michaela, did you go and tell anybody? Who did you tell?
His parents.
His parents? Oh, did you tell them right away? Okay. You can go and sit down now. Thank you. Michaela came and told you about that?
No, ma'am.
She never came and told you that?
No, ma'am.
Did she tell you?
I called. I assume that from the way the marks are, they're huge, just circles, scribbles, they're all at very low positions. I assumed it was a child, and I assumed that if I asked enough children, one of them would tell on the other. So I called her parents and I said, you know, later on today when the kids are home, please ask them if they saw anyone playing around Miss Nikki's car. And in the background, I could hear her say, I did, I saw Darian. And her mom said, well, will you do me a favor? Will you go outside and on Mommy's car, will you touch the spots that you saw him touching on Miss Nikki's car? And she said, okay, she's touching the hood, the driver's side door, and the passenger door on the same side as the driver's side. And she said, is that right? And I said, yeah, that's exactly where the damage is.
Tell me your name.
Darian.
Darian, I want you to come up here and sit up here and talk to me. Trouble. A handful.
Yes, thank you. I do know that.
A handful.
Okay. Tell the judge, okay?
Me and Michaela did it.
You and Michaela both did it? Well, tell me how that happened, Darian.
Me and Michaela had rocks.
Well, how many rocks did you have in your hand?
One.
And where did you get the rock from?
Off the ground.
And what about Michaela? Did she have a rock too?
Yeah.
So why did you decide to scratch Miss Johnson's car?
I don't know.
Well, does your mom have a car?
Yeah, gray.
Hmm?
Gray.
She has a gray car. Darian, if you saw children scratching your mother's car, would you be angry with them? Because that's not the right thing to do, right? And your mommy would be very upset that somebody scratched her car, wouldn't she? She would be sad. Are you ever going to do that again? Because you know you can get into trouble for doing that to other people's property, right? How many marks did you make on the car? And how many marks did Michaela make on the car? So you made more marks than Michaela. Did Michaela make bigger marks than you or littler marks than you? She made smaller marks than you. Show me with your hands how big were the marks that you made on the car. Big ones. And she made little ones. Is that right? She made little ones, and show me your size. The ones you made were bigger ones. Now, when your mom asked you about Miss Johnson's car, did you tell her the truth right away?
My dad.
You told your dad the truth right away? And what did you tell him?
I scratched it.
And when did you tell your mom and your dad that Michaela was there too?
I didn't tell him. I only told my dad.
When did you tell your dad that Michaela was there too? Did you tell him right away, or did you tell him later?
Right away.
Okay. Go and step down. I have a feeling you did a little more damage than Michaela did, but my sense is that Michaela was there. Made a few little marks. Miss Johnson, I know that you don't like to believe it, but cute little Michaela scratched your car. She didn't do as much damage as this little guy did. And in his own 5-year-old way, he really told me the truth about that, because I don't know how many scratches were on the car, but clearly he said he did more than she did. And when I asked him, you saw, how big were her scratches? He said, well, they were really teeny. Mine were bigger. Well, one gets the sense that at least he's telling the truth, that there was some co-participation.
And she said that she helped him wipe them off with the spit so that he wouldn't get into trouble. That's what she told her mom.
Oh, okay.
She said, I helped, he spit all over the car, and I helped him rub them off, but they weren't coming off.
Okay. So you get it, that Michaela's folks have to be responsible for some of the damage to the car.
I also have rental car receipts because they said it's going to take 4 to 5 days. So I have $182.04 because they won't do it on the weekend, not all of it, and I work about 45 minutes from home.
Okay.
So I have a rental car receipt for $182.04.
$422, that's half. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $422. Thank you.
Thank you.
Smart but a handful, Miss Jones.
Thank you.
The roommate for a short period of time, and it is your claim that she moved out after an argument that you had, and she put a stop payment on her rent check.
Yes.
You want your rent.
Right.
And the defendant says that you kicked her out of the apartment, and therefore she doesn't have to pay you any rent. Miss Moses, you moved into Miss King's apartment?
Yes, ma'am.
When?
I moved in approximately August the 4th, I believe, around the beginning of August.
Was it August 4th?
August 5th.
And you knew each other before?
Yes, we did.
Through college.
What was the rental arrangement?
The rental arrangement was that we would both split the rent equally, $305, including utilities. She was supposed to pay me on the 3rd of each month.
So far, is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
When did she move out?
She moved out November the 14th.
Had she paid you November's rent?
Well, she wrote me a check when I went to the bank to cash it.
That's the rent check that she stopped paying.
Right,
on.
and I have that as
okay.
well.
So that was November 14th. So far, you were in the apartment from November the 3rd to November the 14th.
Yes.
So you should have paid rent.
Yes.
On what date did you give her the rent?
Probably the 7th. It was after the time that I was supposed to give it to her. Oh, yes, ma'am, the 7th.
Why were you late with your rent?
Well, a week before that, my purse had gotten stolen, and I didn't have a bank card. I had to change all my accounts, and during this time when I was changing the numbers and all, getting everything straight, I informed Erin of this. I said, I don't have a checkbook, I don't have a bank card. I said, can I just pay you next week once my accounts are in order? She said, yes, no problem. I said, I'll pay you a late fee. She said, okay, no problem, and I did so.
You paid her the rent?
Yes, and a late fee.
Which you owed her?
Yes.
And the late fee?
Yes.
Now, why did you stop payment on the check?
Me and Erin had been having problems living together for about a month. She was in an abusive relationship. It was constant fighting in the apartment. Her boyfriend would come over, get high, smoke weed, hit on me. She'd leave him in there. She gave him a key to the apartment. She would constantly fight with me over food, saying I was stealing from her. We got into a physical altercation, and I decided this was the last straw. She was not on the lease and to get out of her house. So I said, gladly, I'll stop payment on my rent check, and I'll leave your house immediately.
Well, you can't do that. A, you didn't tell her you were stopping payment on the rent check.
I did tell her I was stopping payment on my rent check.
Really? No.
She
You didn't even
me.
say that in your answer, that you told her you would leave
She called
immediately.
me that same day, and I told her I was stopping payment on my rent check and I was moving out.
You may have told her that after she called you on the phone, but when you had the argument with her in the house...
No, she told me to leave. She told me this was her apartment and to leave.
On the phone or in person?
No, when we had our physical altercation.
I understand that. You're not putting on your listening ears.
I'm sorry.
At the time you had this altercation and this argument, you did not say to her, I'm putting a stop payment on the rent check. According to you, you told her over the phone that you were putting a stop payment on the rent.
I apologize for not mentioning that, but I did tell her at the point when we were after the physical altercation, the police that came, I told her that I was leaving and I was stopping payment on my rent check.
Well, you can't.
Okay.
You can't. Unless, of course, she changed the locks.
Yes, that's exactly what she did.
When did you change the locks?
I changed the locks on the 14th. That was because she had been going through my belongings. She had actually stole from...
Just a second. You can't change the locks and ask for rent at the same time.
Well, I actually changed the locks after she did the stop payment on the check. After they gave me the check back from the bank, I went to the bank on the 11th. They told me at the bank I need to take this check back to Ms. Moses. They couldn't tell me why because it was concerning her account. After I left the bank, I said, Avian, I just left the bank. They gave me the check. She said, I'm not paying you anything. I'm moving out.
That's not correct.
And so after that, I later discovered that she had been in my room while I was out of the apartment.
Ms. King, can't have it both ways. If you change the locks on the apartment, making it impossible for her to come back to the apartment, you can't charge her for rent for the entire month.
She did come back to the apartment. After we got into the argument on that Sunday, the police came.
Who called the police?
She did. Even though she started the altercation, she was threatening me with an alcohol bottle, saying that she was going to hit me upside my head with it. While the police was there, I said, it's fine. She can stay, for the next 3 weeks. It won't be any problems. She left that Sunday. She actually came back that Monday and spent the night, even after she told me that she was moving out, and she had started to move her stuff out.
When did she finally move the last bit of property out of the house?
She didn't finish moving out because after I had the locks changed, I called her and I let her know that I had the locks changed and to call me and make arrangements to get the rest of her belongings. I guess she was angry because I had the locks changed, and she said, well, you're stealing my property. She was with her mother. I said, no, you can come in and get your stuff. I even gave her mother a futon cover that was in the living room and a financial aid paper. I guess, it has her financial information. I kept telling them, please
please come in and get the rest of your stuff. I even, you know, gave them that. I wasn't.
When did she take it out, or did she still not?
She left after I gave her mother the futon cover and the Norfolk State financial aid booklet. They said, we don't want the rest of the stuff. We're leaving, and they left it. And so she left a bed, a dresser.
Did you leave
clothing.
a bed and a dresser there?
Yes.
Ma'am, because yes, I did, because she wouldn't allow me to get it.
Oh,
She
well,
changed
you
the
didn't,
locks.
listen to me. You didn't sue her, did you, for your stuff?
Yes, I did. The court ordered her to give it back to me, and I didn't get it back until January the 1st of 2007.
Oh, so you did sue her. This is
Yes,
not
I
the
did.
first time you've been in small claims court.
No, ma'am.
Really? I got it. Miss King, you're only entitled to half a month's rent. Change the locks, but you're entitled to half a month's rent. $152.50.
Okay.
Right? That's what your half a month's rent is.
Yes.
And that's what you offered to pay her.
Yes, I did. She said she didn't want it.
$152.50. Absolutely right. That's all. Judgment for the plaintiff. Responsible for you being severely burned. You want him to pay your medical bills that weren't covered by insurance, and in addition, a sum for the pain and suffering that you endured as a result of these burns. Mr. Endicott says that you were burned as a result of your own drunkenness. So tell me when this happened.
August 17th, night of August 17th, was laying next to, we were camping.
Who was camping?
Me, Mr. Endicott, my boyfriend Jeff, his 13-year-old daughter. I mean, there was a group of us and other children.
When had you gone camping?
I had gone August 17th, Friday.
When had you gone camping, Mr. Endicott?
I got there the same day.
And this was a pre-planned weekend, overnight, is that right?
Yeah.
Did you know each other before?
I had been introduced to him for my boyfriend one other time.
You two were friends?
Yes.
Okay. So tell me what happened.
The day was great. We were four-wheeling in the sand. The night started rolling on. Everybody was settling down by the campfire. There was some drinking, and I was only there for the night, so I didn't have a camping chair, so I laid down near the fire to feel the warmth and everything, and then all of a sudden, I went up in flames.
Did you witness what happened?
Yes.
Stand up, sir. Tell me your name.
Jeffrey Ablin?
Tell me what you observed on the 17th. Miss Crawford had fallen asleep around the fire.
Yes, we were.
Were you on a blanket?
No, I wasn't sleeping. I was just laying there.
We were just, everybody was around the fire.
How many people were around the fire?
I would say approximately there had to have been a good 10 people.
Did you know most of them?
Yes, I knew all of them.
Who had made the fire?
All of us together, all the guys went out to the, out onto the beach, and we towed back driftwood.
When you say all the guys, how many guys were there?
I would say there's probably a good 5 or 6 of us that went out there and gathered wood.
Including Mr. Endicott?
Yes.
Yeah. And how long had the fire been burning?
I would say it'd probably been going about 6 hours at least.
So it was late at night?
Yes, it was approximately about midnight, I would say, roughly.
Yeah, but the driftwood that we put on there, that's in neglect, can tell you, is that it was
You're
wet.
going to have your turn. Go ahead, sir.
So we were all just hanging out by the fire talking, and I didn't actually see Scott throw the gas on the fire, but what I seen was a huge flame and her burst into flames.
After you burst into flames, what happened?
I started rolling. Jeff and a couple of the other guys all kind of jumped on me, pounced out the fire, threw sand on me. They all picked me up at that point, took me to the hospital there in town, the ER. At that point, I was in shock. My skin was sloughing off my legs. I have pictures of that. I don't recall a whole lot after the next 24 hours.
When did you speak to Mr. Endicott?
I actually didn't speak to Mr. Endicott until Wednesday. He came over to my parents' house.
And what day of the week was this?
That's Friday night.
So Wednesday you spoke to Mr. Endicott, and did he call you?
No.
You called him?
No. We were going through Jeff at that point.
You spoke to him?
Yes.
So tell me about the conversation. Did you call him or did he call you?
I seen him face to face.
And tell me about the conversation.
I had asked him if he was going to go to the hospital and see her because she was burned.
And
he told me he didn't think it was his fault, so that he wasn't going to go there. He was going home.
Did he offer an explanation to you?
Yes, he was throwing fire. He was throwing fuel on the fire to get it going better. And
Is that what he said to you?
He did not see her. Yes.
Is that what you said to him?
Yes.
Now you can sit down. Now I'll see the pictures. You're a nurse?
CNA. going to school to be a nurse.
So you were not able to work because of the open wounds?
Correct.
Is that right?
I work in a hospital.
Okay. All right, Mr. Endicott, you certainly have seen these photographs?
Nope.
Okay, sir. Let's start on the 17th.
When I got there, there's a small campfire, and everybody was doing their drinking and stuff. And I was going back and forth from that campground to another campground.
When were you going back and forth between the two campgrounds?
Just through the course of the night. Because I got there around 7 o'clock, and from 7 to about 10, I was going back and forth. Because I had family in another campground. And around 10 o'clock, I came back out there, and that's when everybody decided I decided to stay out there.
At 10 o'clock?
Yeah, around 10 o'clock, I believe. And me and Jeff and some other people went out and got some more firewood, and we brought it back, and the firewood was damp, and so we had it all stacked up on there. And through the course of the evening, the fire hadn't really started on the wood, and another friend asked if we could pour some gas on the fire. And when I went and got the can, another friend was going to pour it out of a cup, and I just told him I'd pour it out of a can. And
so somebody was going to pour it out of a cup?
Yeah.
What would be the reason for pouring it out of a cup instead of using a can?
I don't know.
Well, try to think.
That's just the way he wanted to do it.
Would it?
No difference.
Don't pick your hand up. I don't need anything from you yet.
I mean, there wouldn't be any difference from pouring it out of a cup out of a can. I mean, the results probably would have been the same.
No, what I'm saying to you is if you're using a cup, I'm not a campfire girl myself. You may not have known that. But those people who know me know I believe in sleeping in a bed with running plumbing. So, but it would just seem to me that if you used a cup to pour liquid as, you could sort of gauge how much you were actually using, as opposed to using a can where you just go.
Out of the can, it came out of a can out of a hole that big.
I understand that, sir.
So
you decided to use the can?
Yeah.
Okay, and then what did you do?
When I was walking over to pour the gas on the fire, everybody that was awakened by the fire all moved away from the fire. So I thought it was safe to pour gas on the fire. She was on the other side of the fire, and the wood was stacked up pretty high, wearing dark clothes, and nobody could see her.
No, not nobody.
I couldn't see her.
So whose fault is that?
I think it's both of our fault, because...
Don't tell me why you think it's both of your faults. Let us say that I believe you when you say she was, because I read your answer, that she was probably sleeping because she had had too much to drink. Let's say I buy that 100%. Explain to me why that's not your fault.
It is my fault for her getting burnt, but I don't feel financially responsible for it.
Well, why, if it's your fault for her getting burned, why aren't you financially responsible, Mr. Endicott?
Why isn't she responsible for her own actions?
What are her actions that caused her to get burnt?
Being inebriated.
Yeah. So were you. So was everybody else that was there. They had been drinking all night. You had been drinking in between two campgrounds. You were all drinking. How does the fact that she was drinking, sleeping, make it her fault? Don't you get that? It's your fault. Let me give you an example, Mr. Endicott, of the lunacy of your position. Okay, sir? Pay careful attention to me. Let's say you're drunk and you get behind the wheel of a car, just like you pick up a can of gas while you're drunk, and you're driving along and you hit somebody who is sitting in their car in a no parking zone. They're sitting in their car, not moving. You're drunk in your car. You plow right into them. You think it's an argument in your defense that they're sitting in a no parking zone?
Not in that situation, but what if she...
Of course not.
What if she...
Of course not, because the fact, sir, that they are sitting in a no parking zone has absolutely nothing to do with the fact that you recklessly got behind the wheel of a car while drunk and drove that car into the parked car. Similarly, Mr. Endicott, the fact that you did not secure the area by walking around the perimeter of the fire to make sure nobody was there before you poured gasoline on it is your fault. Not her fault that the wood was piled too high so that you couldn't see over it, or it was dark, or that she chose to wear dark clothing when she was sleeping at the fire so you couldn't see her. If you had walked around the fire, you would have seen her. right?
Yeah,
You didn't. Whose fault is that?
I guess it's mine.
Ah, now we're getting closer to it. If it's your fault that she got burned because you were negligent and careless, you're responsible. Do you understand that? Just say yes, ma'am. Perfect. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $5,000. That's all. Step out. According to the complaints that I read, each of you, through your parents or guardian, suggests that the other assaulted him at a sleepover party you were having at somebody's house. Both of you claimed that you were injured?
Yes, ma'am.
And since the parents weren't there and the sister wasn't there, you're going to stand up on your own and tell me when this was and what happened.
Yes, ma'am.
I would suggest to you, if you think about lying, turn around and leave. If you think about stretching the truth, it will be a very unfortunate day for you. So I expect to hear from you nothing but the
truth.
Correct. What's your first name?
Trevor.
And yours?
Justin.
How long had you been friends?
A few years.
And tell me when this incident happened. Where were you, Trevor?
I was at my friend Austin's house.
How many people were there?
About 6.
Remember the date?
No, ma'am.
Do you remember the date?
No, ma'am.
Do you remember the month?
No, I'm honestly not sure.
Did you have medical bills?
Yes, ma'am.
Well, if you had bills, then I bet you your mother remembers what date this happened. What date?
September 5th, 2007.
Where were Mr. Austin's parents?
They were back in their room.
And there were 6 people sleeping over?
Yes, ma'am. We were in the living room. We were all playing around. We were having a pillow fight, just playing around. And I decided I wanted to stop, so I sat down and was watching TV, and I was hitting the back of the head with the pillow, like, really hard. And I turned around and asked my friend who did it, and he said Justin. I assumed Justin Townsend.
You assumed it was him?
Yes,
You
ma'am.
didn't see him, did you? But somebody else said Justin. How many Justins were there?
2.
So you went over to this Justin, and what did you do?
I hit him with the pillow.
You hit him. What was he doing when you hit him?
He was sitting down.
So he wasn't doing anything?
No, ma'am.
Did you hit him in the face or in the back?
I wasn't paying attention to where I hit him. I just hit him with the pillow.
Did you hit him because you were angry?
Yes, ma'am.
So I assume you hit him as hard as you could.
Yes, ma'am.
Then what happened?
I turned around to walk off. I heard him say something, so I turned back around and I was hit in the face.
By whom?
By him.
And?
I was hit in the face and knocked back on my back. I got back up and went into the kitchen, and I saw blood, so I went back in there and grabbed a lamp and hit him with the lamp.
And?
After I hit him with the lamp, I walked back into the kitchen. He walked after me and asked me if I wanted to even out the other eye, and I grabbed a knife and told him if he came any closer, I would cut him, which
Yeah?
I understand was the wrong thing to do. And
The whole thing was the wrong thing for you to do.
yes,
You hit him first.
yes, ma'am.
Don't you get that?
Well,
What do you mean, well?
He was under the impression that it was Justin
I
Townsend.
don't
who
care
did
what he
it.
was under the impression that it was Justin who hit him. It wasn't. Right?
No, ma'am.
So you made a mistake. You picked the wrong Justin.
Yes, ma'am.
And you hit him as hard as you could.
Yes, ma'am.
Because you were angry. And he got up and he hit you back.
Yes, ma'am.
And he gave you a black eye.
Yes, ma'am.
So you went into the kitchen, saw you were bleeding, came out, picked up a lamp, an object. So far you've been playing with feathers and fists. So you pick up a lamp and you hit him in the head. And then you went and got a knife. What is wrong with you?
Nothing's wrong with me.
I mean, why would you sue him? Your son did absolutely the wrong thing. Now you can stand up next to him. Your son, you can stand up next to your brother. Your son did absolutely the wrong thing.
Well, according to what the witnesses at the party told me.
Don't tell me what the witnesses told you, madam. That's hearsay.
Okay,
That's
well-
what your son says.
Okay.
Your son was there, not somebody that I can't question, because they're not here.
Okay, well then
Your
I'll-
son gave me the whole scenario. His words.
He did, and he hit Justin with a pillow, and Justin turned around and hit him on a chair, jumped and punched him in the face.
So what? Out of nowhere, for no reason, your son came up and, according to him, using all of his strength, because he was angry, hit him. For no reason. And he got punched back. And then your son went and got an instrument, a lamp, and hit him with the lamp.
Yes, ma'am.
And then he went and got a knife.
To defend himself, yes.
What do you mean to defend himself?
Because he had threatened that he was going to come back and punch even out his other eye. He didn't want any further more.
He hit him with a lamp.
Correct.
Mr. Townsend hit him one time in retaliation for him being hit. Your son hit him once with a pillow, hit him twice using a lamp, and then picked up a knife. You're lucky he wasn't arrested. So your complaint is dismissed. Now, were you injured?
Just slightly. I had a bruise from where he hit me with the lamp.
Where did he hit you with the lamp?
Hit me in my ribs in this area.
You owe him an apology. Do you understand that?
Yes, ma'am.
Say, I'm sorry.
I'm sorry.
I forgive you.
Is that sufficient?
Yes, ma'am.
Made a mistake, Mrs. Weatherford. Your son was the aggressor.
I didn't feel
Aggressors
that way.
sometimes get the worst of a fight. In this case, your son was very lucky. All he ended up with was a black eye. If he would have used the knife or used the lamp in a different place, it could have been a lot worse for him.
Ma'am, he ended up with a lot more than a black eye.
How many times did he get hit?
He got hit once, but he got hit very hard, and it wasn't with a pillow.
No, he got hit with a fist.
Yes, he did.
That's what he deserved.
I don't feel that.
Well, that's too bad what you feel. I'm telling you, legally, your son had no right because he picked the wrong Justin to hit him. He didn't inquire sufficiently.
That's your opinion.
No, that's the law.
Okay.
And if you want to continue to defend him, this isn't the last time you're going to be in court with him. You better learn to say, you made a mistake, dear. You're a big boy. How old are you?
14, ma'am.
14. And how tall are you?
6
6
foot.
feet,
Yeah.
right? Still growing. So you have to teach a child who's 14 years old. How much do you weigh?
220.
Who's 6 feet tall and weighs 220 pounds, that if he hits somebody, slams them with all of his might with a pillow, he can hurt them. Can knock out an eye, break something. Fortunately, that didn't happen. But when somebody who is, how much do you weigh?
120.
Who weighs 100 pounds less, punches him back, and happens to connect, that's part of the risk. So you better teach him. Because right now, you're not teaching him anything. You're still making excuses for his behavior. Your case is dismissed.
Thank you.
You got an apology?
Yes, ma'am.
Is that okay?
Yes, ma'am.
Good, that's all. You have 2 children.
Yes, ma'am.
How old are they?
1 and 4.
And Mr. Enum is not the father of either of those children?
No, ma'am.
Okay. Mr. Enum,
Yes, ma'am.
according to the complaint that you filed in this case, you met the defendant and subsequently decided to lease a house with her. Both of you to the lease. She moved in, subsequently moved out with her 2 children. You want her responsible for her half of the rent for the duration of the lease.
Correct.
Ms. Hamlin says that you are a violent, vicious person, that you abused her and her children.
There's a lie, Your Honor.
Shh, just a minute. And she is counterclaiming. That's what the case is about. All right. When did you sign this lease?
January 18, 2005.
And when did she move out?
May 28th, 2005.
Tell me the circumstances surrounding her moving out.
She moved out in April.
Why did she move out? You don't know. Why did you move out?
I moved out because he was abusive to me and my children. He would hit my daughter, spank her when she would cry, give her bruises. He would hit my son when he would do something wrong. He just really abused me, and just that's why I moved out. So
I didn't ask you for any
Yes,
information,
ma'am.
sir. Are you still living in the house?
Correct. Yes, ma'am.
Do you plan on staying in the house?
Yes, ma'am.
You have a new roommate?
No, ma'am.
Plan on getting one?
No, ma'am.
Why not?
I don't want to go through the same thing again.
So you can afford the rent yourself?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Do you get any child support for your children?
I do, Your Honor, but I do not receive it.
You mean there's an order for child support?
Yes, but I do not receive it.
Why not?
The dad's not working, and he's just not responsible.
Do you get any other assistance for your children?
Nope. Just me working, that's it.
Did the children visit your family?
Yes, they do.
You know her family, I assume. Are you related to her?
Yes, ma'am, I am.
How are you related to her?
I reside with Michelle's mother. We've been together for 7 years, and I can testify of an harassment at Michelle's place of employment on one occasion.
What's your name?
My name is Jeffrey Bell, Your Honor.
Mr. Bell, do you remember the date of the alleged harassment?
It was shortly after Eric damaged
Give me a month.
May 2005. Sorry about that.
And tell me what you observed in May of 2005.
I witnessed Eric and 2 young ladies at Michelle's restaurant. After they had their meal, I watched Eric have his arm around this young lady. I considered it taunting Michelle at work. After they were close to the door, The two young ladies started arguing with the hostess and manager, stating that poor service, they want the manager's telephone number. I got up from my seat. I approached Eric right at the door.
Now, Mr. Bell, don't talk to him.
Yes, ma'am. And I did walk up to him and told Eric that I'm sure that you have some things to work out with Michelle, but please be cool. I shook his hand like a gentleman, and the next thing we know, the car's being vandalized, and if I knew that those children were abused...
Just a second, Mr. Bell.
Yes, ma'am.
If you knew that the children were abused, what would you do?
I would have wrung his neck.
What about her?
I would have taken care of her, too.
What about her, Mr. Bell? She's the mother. I read...
I love her,
just a second.
Yes,
you may love her.
Yes, I do.
But I read her complaint, and I'm not so interested in this half rent that Mr. Enman wants her to pay.
Yes, ma'am.
Because right now he's living in the house, and if he wants to get a roommate, he can do it. He told me a moment ago he has no interest in doing that because he can afford the rent.
Yes, Your Honor.
So he's going to stay there. So I'm not so interested in his complaint. I'm interested in her answer and her counterclaim. So I think that if you're going to be mad at somebody, if you believe any of this was going on,
yes,
and I'm not so sure.
Okay. May I explain just one more
No,
point,
don't
please?
explain anything yet, because I'm going to get to some dates.
Yes, ma'am.
Your girlfriend's daughter, that's who this is, your girlfriend's daughter,
yes, ma'am,
says in March of 2005, he was fired from his job.
No, I quit.
You quit your job?
Correct.
Whatever, fired. When he came home, we started to argue about money. He walked away from me and got into his car. So far, okay? They were arguing. He got into his car to leave.
Yes.
Prior to that, a few weeks after they had moved in together, so in February, they had a fight, according to her. He punched me repeatedly in the head, slapped me in my legs as hard as he could. I attempted to get away and ran outside, but he dragged me back into the house and continued to beat me. This was all in front of the children. This is what she says.
Yes, Your Honor.
All in front of the children. I pleaded with him to stop, and he finally left. A few weeks later, in March, evidently they're still together. All the while, he's abusing her children and abusing her, beating her, none of which you saw any evidence of, by the way. Is that right?
That's correct, Your Honor.
Okay. Then in March, he was, according to her, fired from his job. He came home, they started to fight. He walked away to get into his car, so he walked away. Now, this is somebody that has beat her, dragged her into the house, punched her. So instead of saying, oh, he's leaving, I can get my stuff and my children and get out of here, right? Let's see what she does. Want to know what she says she does?
Yes, ma'am, please.
I followed him to finish talking. I knocked on his window to get his attention. You find that odd, Mr. Bell?
At this point, yes, I do, Your Honor.
Okay. He jumped out of the car and he hit me. I ran into the house and locked myself in our bedroom with my children. When I wouldn't let him in, he kicked down the door and threw me on the bed and continued hitting me. Just a second, now you getting mad at him?
Yes.
I don't believe her. Now, there's got to be something wrong with somebody who has family at home. You look like a very nice man. You live in the same town?
Oh, yes, ma'am.
So we have somebody who has a mother who's clearly close to her. You have somebody who stands in what we call in French, in loco parentis, like a father to her, because you say you love her, lives close by, who she can go to. So according to he beats her, that I assume you see her regularly.
Yes.
Right? She's still with him.
Yes.
They have another fight, but he leaves. He doesn't hit her. He doesn't touch her. She runs out of the house after him because she's not finished talking. Doesn't sound right to me. Does it sound right to you, sir?
Well, young people act a little differently, but to me, no, Your Honor.
All right. And this is, we're still talking March.
Yes, ma'am.
She didn't leave in March.
No, she did not.
When did you leave?
Like the middle of April.
Your counterclaim says on April 29th, in a fit of rage, he came to my job and saw me talking to one of my coworkers. But according to you, he had your daughter in the car, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Now, what was he doing with your daughter in the car?
He was taking care of her while I was at work.
Right. And he took care of both of your children while you were at work.
He picked them up from the daycare. He chose to pick them up from daycare.
How often did he pick them up from daycare?
Mostly every day.
So after, according to you, he's been abusing your children since February, March, April. You allow him, unsupervised, to go and pick up your children? You understand me, Mr. Bell?
Yeah, I see your point, Your Honor.
Something doesn't ring true, Mr. Bell.
Up to this point, yes, Your Honor.
Well, that's the testimony so far. I'm practically finished with the complaint and the answer. I mean, I don't have voluminous papers here. I have somebody who says that he abuses her children, that he spanks her infant, spank her so hard it would leave bruises, and yet she allows him to be with her children unsupervised. If I believe it's true, she's as guilty as he is. She's the mother. They're her children.
Yes.
Her job is to protect those children. Do you understand me?
Yes, ma'am.
You chose, as a baby, to have 2 children with somebody who is totally irresponsible, who doesn't take care of his children, and then according to you, and I'm questioning the truthfulness of what you say, you hook up with somebody who beats your children, and you stay with them.
He beat your children, you tell her. He beat your children.
Go ahead.
He beat my children, and I was scared to leave in the first place because I had bought him a shotgun, and I didn't know what he was capable of doing with that gun.
When did you buy him a shotgun?
Like in March.
Just a second. You told me that the first time he hit you and beat you was in February. Why did you buy him a shotgun in March? I'll get to you in a second. Why would you buy him a shotgun in March?
Because he wanted it to have protection from the kid's father.
Mr. Bell, don't buy everything that she's telling you, sir.
May I speak just for a couple words, please?
Absolutely, sir.
Okay. I know that there's been numerous complaints against Michelle's children's first father with Eric and Michelle when they first got together. Numerous harassments over telephone, verbal assaults.
You mean by the father of these 2 children?
Yes, and they were both in fear from the beginning.
Just a minute. Did she confide that in you, sir?
Oh, yes.
That the father of her 2 children was harassing?
Yes.
Threatening?
Yes.
Did she ever tell you that he was?
No.
Right. Now I'll hear you. Because I know if I don't get you up here, we may have an accident. Okay. Who are you?
I'm Anna, and one of his witnesses.
Anna, you have a last name.
Arredondo.
Arredondo?
Yes, ma'am.
Go ahead.
On May 22nd of 2005, Michelle had came over to discuss some things with Eric, and
how do you know these 2 people?
I know these. I have met Michelle prior because they came over in my home, and I met her kids.
Just a second. So you're his friend?
Yes, I'm his friend.
How do you know him?
I've known him for 6 years.
Okay, so now you're going to May.
Yes, in May 22nd, 2005, Michelle came over to Eric's home, and I was heading towards the kitchen, and I overheard her tell Eric.
Just one second. May 22nd, you went to his house?
Yes, sir.
Did you go with the police?
No, I went with a friend.
What did you go there to discuss?
Discuss about my stuff in the house still.
Discuss your property?
Yes, ma'am.
We're talking about somebody who beats you, beats your children, and you, without police protection, voluntarily went to his house.
Yes.
You got where I'm going, Mr. Bell?
I do, Your Honor.
Good. And what happened, Miss Arredondo? What did you hear?
I heard her, and I quote, if you take me to court, I'm just going to lie and tell the judge that you hit me. And Eric said, go ahead, she's just going to see that you're lying. So that's all I can witness.
That's a lie. That's a lie, Your Honor.
I don't think so.
Eric Enum claims ex-girlfriend Michelle Hamlin broke their apartment lease and failed to repay his loan.
Okay. All I can do is look at conduct. According to you, you entered into an abusive relationship with someone with whom you had 2 children. Then you went to live with him.
Yes, ma'am.
And according to you, he started to abuse you as soon as you signed the lease in this house together. Seriously abusing you, beating, punching, hitting, kicking, but also did the same thing to your 2 infant children. And you continued to live with him. And when you had another fight, he wanted to leave the house, you followed him outside. And then he beat you again. And then you still continued to live with him and allowed your children to live with him. And not only did you allow your children to live with him, but you allowed him unsupervised care of your children. He was the caretaker of your children while you were working. Now, when for the first time did you report his abusive conduct to you and your children to the police?
I never reported it.
Why not?
Because I was scared if I did report it that he would do something else.
Your Honor, we haven't got to the part where he was driving recklessly with a child in the back of the car, doing donuts in the parking lot at her work.
Did you see that, Mr. Bell?
Myself, no.
So I just asked you if you saw that.
I did not see that.
Okay. Now, Mr. Edmonds says that he had the child in the car, and he went to get her because why?
Because she said she was going to a party that night and going to leave me with the kids.
And what did you say to her?
So let her know you're not, you need to be home with your kids.
And she said?
She said, no, I'm not. I'm taking my kids. I'm going out.
I'm taking my kids and I'm going out.
Correct.
So what did you do?
I went to her work.
And you saw her doing what?
Being all over.
Listen to me. Go ahead.
I saw her being all over 2 other guys in the parking lot.
So you got mad?
Correct.
Were you driving around in a reckless manner in the parking lot with the child in the car?
No, ma'am.
What did you do?
I told her to get in the car and go home. And when we got to our place of residence, I pulled in the garage and the police came right behind us.
Because she had called the police?
Correct.
Had you called him that day to tell him you were going out?
Yes, ma'am.
And when did you tell him you were going to be home? Don't look down there. When did you tell him you were going to be home?
Like about 12 or 1.
In the morning?
Yeah.
And who was supposed to watch the children till 12 or 1 o'clock in the morning?
I told him that I was going to go to a friend's house and watch a movie and that I would come and pick up my daughter and take her with me. He told me that...
Just a second. Where was your other child?
My other child was with his dad.
When did the other child go with his father?
In the morning time.
This is the same father who you were afraid of and you bought him a shotgun to protect the 2 of you from?
Yes, ma'am.
You got a lot of work to do, Mr. Bell. Her judgment is impaired. You don't get it. Her judgment is impaired.
She's young, and I watched her mature from a teenager to a very good mother. And she is a very good mother, Your Honor.
Impossible! Impossible if I believe what she wrote in her answer, Mr. Bell. Impossible if I believe her that she allowed her children to be in a circumstance with this man who abused her children. That makes her the worst possible mother. The worst possible mother. To sit there and watch a stranger to the children, she says, beat her baby with bruises, and you're telling me matured into a very good mother? Your judgment is impaired.
I believe sometimes, Your Honor, that love is blind. It may be
Love may be blind, and there are women who stay in abusive relationships. She clearly is one of those people who stayed, at least in her first relationship, which was abusive, although she continues to have the lunatic that she described to me before that required protection by a shotgun. She allowed that person to take her infant child. Impaired judgment. And I don't believe her. I don't believe that she was the victim of the kind of abuse she ascribes to the plaintiff. She filed not one police report. You saw no evidence of abuse on either her or her children. She didn't even file a police report after she moved. As a matter of fact, after she moved out and she was free and clear of this horrendous person who beat her and her children, she went back to his house. Is that the action of somebody who's afraid? Okay. Listen to me, sir. You get not a dime from her. You're living in a house. You're happy living there. What you are required to do in this kind of circumstance is to mitigate your damages, which means you put an ad in the internet, you put an ad in the local paper for a roommate. You chose not to do that. That's wonderful. You can afford it. Live there. I don't believe your allegations with regard to your counterclaim, madam. And I think that you have to. If you made 2 children, you better get smart. Because if on the long shot that anything that you say here was true, you have so far made 2 very poor choices. And you have a responsibility to your 2 children to choose more wisely with regard to mates that you select, or else make up your mind that you're not going to have a mate for a while and you're going to rely on this gentleman and your mother as family to help raise your children. And grow up. That's all. Was a friend of yours somehow got hold of your car and caused damage on 3 separate occasions in one night.
Yes.
Mr. Gonzalez says that you were so drunk that night that you don't remember that you were driving and you caused the damage to your own car.
Not true.
Right?
Right.
And you are just friends?
Yeah, I guess you could say that. I was messing
I don't want to
around
guess what I'm going to say anything. I'm asking you, are you just friends or are you more than friends?
Yes, we were just friends.
Not intimate?
Yes, we were intimate a couple times.
Well, Bird is my friend. We have never been intimate. Do you understand?
Yes.
Do you understand the difference? How old are you?
21.
How old are you?
35.
All right. So that's a little bit of a difference. Okay, so you were intimate friends. That's a new category of friends. There were people who were intimate, then there were friends, and then somewhere in the middle there were intimate friends. You are one of those. When did this assault on your car take place?
June 5th.
Okay. And what were you doing out with Mr. Gonzalez?
Actually, I was home when he called me and asked me to give him and his friend Mike a ride home. And I went.
Why did they need a ride home?
I didn't ask.
And you said, fine, I'll come and pick you up and give you a ride home.
Sure.
Keep going.
When I got to the restaurant, the establishment, he was there with 3 other gentlemen. They were there eating and drinking, and I ordered a margarita, and we were there for about an hour and a half.
How many margaritas did you have?
Just one, Your Honor. And then from there, they wanted to take off, and we went to a billiards place where we were there only a half hour. I played billiards with one of the other gentlemen that was there with them. They wanted to leave. We went to another local establishment, a local bar.
So you were playing chauffeur that night?
Pretty much.
So the reason for the phone call was you guys wanted to drink, and you needed somebody to chauffeur you around.
Yes.
Did you tell her that?
Yes, I did.
What did you say to her?
I asked her for a ride because we had all been drinking.
Well, a ride to take you home is one thing. A ride to schlep you from one place to another so you continue to drink is something entirely different.
Oh, well, we planned on going home. But when she got there, she started drinking with us, and we said, well, you feel like going somewhere else? She said, yeah, so we went.
Keep going, Miss Castillo.
When we left that establishment, we dropped off his other friend, the one that they went in a car with, to his car, to his vehicle, and from there I went to a local gas station. And I went there, I got off, left the keys in the ignition, paid gas to the pump where I was parked at. When I came out, my car was gone. I panicked. I was looking around the parking lot, looking to see where they were. I gave them time. I'm thinking maybe it's a practical joke. Maybe they're out there looking at me, freaking out. I gave them about 15, 20 minutes, and at that point, I had dialed 911 to report the car stolen. When I looked up, he was driving back in the car with his friend still in the car. I was yelling at him. He refused to get out of the driver's side and said he was going to drive himself and his friends home. Said, fine. I pumped the gas in my car, got in the passenger side, and he drove his first friend home. He drove recklessly to the point where that friend didn't even wait till the car came to a complete stop. He literally jumped out of the car before he stopped the car in motion. Okay, and he tells me that's what you get for hanging out with a 21-year-old. He yells that through the window.
Sounds right to me.
Yeah. He speeds off, and I'm yelling and telling him to stop, get out of the car. He doesn't get off the car. Drives down a road where there's construction on both sides of the road. There's bolted cones with concrete dividers on both sides of the road. He's driving recklessly. He's hitting these cones. I counted 8. When I seen him headed towards the concrete divider, I literally had to put my hand on the steering wheel to avoid a real major crash. When I did that, he still didn't stop. He had all green lights for whatever reason. We drove to his house. We go into his house. I told him I wanted some resolve. I wanted something in writing. He tells me to go wait.
Just a second. You went into his house. And what happened when you got into his house?
We were talking.
Look at me. Now here, you see, I can tell when somebody is not giving me the accurate story. So don't start embellishing now what you think you want to tell me. What happened when you went into his house?
We talked. I told him I wanted...
What did you say to him?
I told him I wanted something in writing. I asked him, how are we going to handle the situation?
What situation?
About him hitting the car. I hadn't seen the damages to the car yet. I knew he was hitting the pylons, and I knew he had already hit, there was some damage, but I hadn't actually inspected the car at this point. So then he brushes me off, goes into the back room, talks to his friend Mike, then he tells me to wait for him in my car outside, and we'll talk some more. So there I go. I walked outside of the house, went into the car, sat in my car, and at this point I see him getting in Mike's car, and they're driving away. So I turned on my car, I followed them to an apartment complex, all the way across town. And at this point, I'm looking for my cell phone, which I couldn't find, somewhere on the floor.
Because you were drunk?
That's not true. And when we got there, I followed them to a dead end, and I had to back up. I backed up so that they can straighten out. They were there in the car for about 5 minutes, and then Mr. Gonzalez gets off the car, comes towards my car. In the meantime, his friend Mike drives off, tells me to move over so we could talk. Then he's telling me that he had no reason to bow down to me like I was some princess, that that's the reason why he doesn't have a valid license, because he can't drive. And he puts the car in reverse, backs it into the wall, then he drives off.
So you let him get into the driver's side of the car, according to you, and you moved over. I assume you have a bench seat in the front?
It's not a bench seat, no.
What
Two
is it?
separate seats.
Two separate seats. So you had to crawl over, and where's the whatever?
It's right there in the
shift?
center.
It's in the middle.
It's in the middle.
Yeah.
So you had to sort of get your leg over there, and he opened up the driver's side, unless you got out of the driver's side and walked around to the passenger side. So you scooted over somehow. Is that what you're telling me?
Yes, I did.
You scooted over somehow and let him in.
I didn't have a choice. He was practically sitting on my lap.
Miss Castillo.
Well, I still scooted over.
Miss Castillo, my dear. You're a 35-year-old woman. You had a choice. As soon as he got to his house and you dropped him off, instead of following him across town to an apartment complex in a dead-end street, you call 911. And you say, this man got into my car, took my car, damaged my car. I want to report the damage to my car. Because according to you, you went into his house, Miss Castillo, to get him to sign a piece of paper. Did he sign it?
No.
Should have had some clue that he was not going to take responsibility for what he had done to your car. Is that right?
No.
You thought he was going to take responsibility, and that's why he got into Mike's car and
No, that's
drove
why
away?
I followed him, because I didn't know if he was going to drop him off somewhere and disappear. But when I tried to look for my cell phone, I couldn't find it. It wasn't on in my purse.
All right, Mr. Gonzalez, go.
My turn?
That's why I'm looking at you.
Yeah, after we left the first establishment, we went to another bar. We did have about 3 pictures. When we left, she asked me to drive because she had been drinking. I said, no, there's no way I'm going to drive. I have a DUI. I'll pick up another one, and I'm in trouble.
I don't want you to speak.
So I told her no. She asked everybody to drive, actually, but she pestered me about it. I didn't drive. When we went to the gas station, nobody took her car. She came back, put gas. We dropped off my friend. We dropped off another friend, went to our house. She followed me inside, and we were there for about 2 hours. And she didn't ask me
What were you
about...
doing it for the 2 hours in your house?
We were playing intimate friendship. And after that...
You're a fast learner.
Yeah.
Keep going.
Then after that, I told her to leave because we had to drop off one of my buddy Mike's girlfriend that had just got there. And I didn't want to see her anymore. And she got upset and was telling me things about me and her. And I told her, I'm not with you. I don't want to be with you. I don't want to have nothing to do with you.
This is after you played intimate friendship?
Yes. Of course. And then after that, she went to her car. We left. About halfway to our destination, we realized she was following us. We turned into the apartments where we were supposed to be. She followed us in, and you have to turn like zigzag. So we parked on the side, and as soon as she came in, I got off the car and told her why she was following me, and I was pretty upset. While she mashes out in reverse, boom, hits a wall, and I ran around the side of the car to the driver's side because I was pissed. I was telling her things, you know, I probably shouldn't have been saying. But then she takes off forward and hits the front side of her car on one of those big poles.
Okay. Now, I see that you have something over there, Miss Castillo. I'd like you to tell me what it is.
This is a tape recorder where he leaves me a voice message the day after the incident where he admits he took off in my car without me.
Oh, I'd like to hear that. That I would like to hear, and I would like you to give it to Officer Burtz because I want to listen to it very carefully. You wouldn't have done that, sir.
No.
Is that right?
No, that's not my voice.
Oh. Let's see.
076. Received June 6th at 7:19.
Hey, when I left yesterday, when you left at the night, your car was fine. I don't know what you're tripping on. I didn't do nothing to your car. I didn't hit nothing, and after I took off, I only took off once without you. And when I came back, your car was fine. I didn't hit nothing, so I don't know why you're going to be mad at me. But if you're all right, then late.
That is your voice, Mr. Gonzalez?
That is not my voice.
Sure it is.
Does that even admit that I was driving?
Yeah, it said that I only took off in your car once, and I didn't do any damage to your car.
Well, that wasn't me. I haven't driven.
I only took off. Listen to me. This is what it says.
Okay.
And you know what's logical, Mr. Gonzalez, because you're a smart young man.
Yes.
If she was going to falsify this and have somebody else pretend that they were you,
yes,
she would have had this person say, listen, I'm sorry I did all the damage to your car. I'll pay you for it.
Yes.
Wouldn't have had them say, listen, I didn't damage your car. I took off with it once and I brought it back. Nothing happened to it. So I don't know what you're complaining about. Do you understand?
Yes, I understand.
Good. So this is your voice, and you acknowledge that you took off once with her car, but you say, I didn't cause any damage to your car. That I believe. So you see, you shouldn't fib.
Okay.
Because if you fib, then I can doubt everything that you're telling me. Now, Miss Castillo, I don't believe you damaged your car. I think that you were really angry, and I think that if your car got damaged, you did it, or you let him drive your car. Now, if you're going to choose playmates, you got to choose playmates that are somehow equal to you. These young men, on that night in June, were doing nothing more than using you as a chauffeur. I am not comfortable enough with your story to find that Mr. Gonzalez, as outrageous as his behavior might be, and however morally reprehensible his behavior might be, is responsible for the damage to your car, Ms. Castillo. So your complaint is dismissed. That's all.
Thank you.
Times as many women loan money to men, in our experience, as the other way around.
At least.
I don't understand why women are always loaning money to men. I don't get it. They're supposed to be bigger. They're supposed to be stronger. They're supposed to be the hunters. They're supposed to be king of the jungle. And they're always walking around with their hand out. What I still don't understand is, I've asked the women over and over again, why do you want to give this guy money? You know? And I'm not able to get an answer, but what I'm going to try to do from now on is to get the answers from men who look as if they're ordinary guys. Why did you take money from her, Mr. Dodds?
Your Honor, at the time, it was the case that I was very, very short.
Why were you short?
I went through a pretty nasty divorce, and my ex-wife was taking me to court about every other week, and my lawyer was just killing me in fees. And at the time, I mean, it was coming up to Christmas time, everything. I was extremely short-handed of cash. That's all there is to it.
What do you mean it was coming up to Christmas? What does the time of year have to do with it?
I've got 2 daughters. I was really concerned how Christmas was going to turn out.
So you wanted to buy Christmas presents for your daughter, so you borrowed money?
No, that's not what happened, Your Honor. She knew that I was short of cash, and she just straight out just offered it, and I did refuse it, that no, I couldn't ask that of you. And she said, that's what friends do, and I'd like to do that for you. And it was with reluctance that I took it. I'm not one that likes to take handouts.
How long after that, Mr. Dodds, did you and the plaintiff stop seeing each other?
Maybe 2 months.
Was that a mutual decision or your decision?
It was my decision to stop seeing her.
Well, if it was your decision and you're a moral person, because clearly you were worried about your daughters coming up and not having Christmas presents in December, why didn't you start to pay her back?
Shortly after I told her that, we were going to stop seeing each other.
Did you just tell her, or did you send her a letter?
I sent her an email, I believe, actually,
and
I kind of explained to her.
That wasn't until February.
Go ahead.
And I explained to her why, decided not to see her anymore. And
right.
And it was just shortly thereafter that she became very, very nasty, and she accused me of giving her an S. So it really concerned me. So I started going to different doctors, and I had some tests done to make sure that that was not the case. I was pretty concerned about that. So now I've got doctor bills that I have incurred because of her being spiteful or vindictive or whatever reason.
So in the email where you explained that you were breaking up with her, Mr. Dodds, did you say to her, and I know that I took some money from you, and I know it wasn't a loan at the time, but I consider it my moral obligation to give you the money back, so I'm going to start sending it to you. Was that included in your email?
I don't recall at the time.
Let's say no.
No.
Let's say it wasn't included in your email. Now, how do you think that that made her feel? She gets this email from you after she's given you this money because she was a good friend, and she insisted on helping you out so that your girls would have a Christmas. And then you send her this Dear John email, because we're living in the 21st century. And the email has nothing to do with her $510. So she gets vindictive and nasty. That's what women do. That's what they do. You're lucky all your pants aren't cut in half. Ms. Vandroff.
Yes.
You have 10 seconds to convince me that this was a loan and not, I want to help you because you're my friend. And if you want to say, I can't do it, I'm more than willing to hear it. I have humiliated him sufficiently. What's your pleasure?
Well, first of all this started about the same day that I did give him the money. He made a down payment on some land as well. Now, my problem is why in the world did he make a down payment on land if he couldn't afford his rent?
When did you find out about that?
I believe it was the same day or just before I gave him the check.
And you continued to date him?
Unfortunately.
You continued to share his home with him for a while.
I wasn't living with him.
I don't care whether you were living with him or not. You get my drift,
Yes.
madam?
Yes.
That's also what women do. They'll make excuses. They'll go through all kinds of mental gymnastics to justify bad behavior. So, you've had your 10 seconds and you haven't convinced me that this was a loan.
I don't feel it was a loan.
It wasn't. It was a gift.
I mean, I gave him the money, and I did want to go ahead and help him, but he did send me an email stating that he would repay it.
Oh, let me see that. I would, listen, I would love to, in addition to humiliating him, give you a judgment.
And so if it was not a loan, why would he send me the email?
Oh, fine. Wednesday, April 20th. I will also be paying you back. If it's in installments, that's the best I can do right now. That's what you said to her.
Yes, ma'am, that's right. At that time, I'd tell her just about anything just to get her off my back.
Fine. Well, that's great. Well, that's what you told her. You said I'd be paying you back even in installments. So you didn't start?
No, ma'am. As far as I'm concerned, I don't owe her that money.
Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $510. You acknowledge the debt, sir. You said paying you back. That's all. Step out. Is
Christopher Rivera.
17.
Yes.
And this is your mother. At some point, Christopher came to your house and asked if he could borrow your car. You knew he was 17.
Mm-hmm.
Now, is not an answer in court. Is fine outside here. You
Yes, Your
say
Honor.
yes, no, whatever. Your Honor is a nice touch. He said he needed your car so he could take his sister to school.
Yes.
But that was a partial truth. You know what that means?
I'm not sure.
It means it was only partially true, half true. A little piece of it was true. Some of it was a lie. You didn't just want to take your sister to school. You did something else with the car, right?
Yes.
What else did you do with the car?
I gave my cousin a ride home.
And after you gave your cousin a ride home, then what else did you do with the car?
And I let April drive it.
Who's April?
Some girl.
Was she in the car?
Yes.
I didn't get that part of the story. How did April get into the car?
Because she was with my cousin.
How old is April?
17, I believe.
I want you to keep your voice up. You don't mind my yelling at him, do you?
No, ma'am.
Yes. And April wrecked the car.
Yes.
So, Mr. Wamsley, you expect Mrs. Martinez to pay for your car.
Yeah, and I was under the impression that he had a license.
I don't care whether you thought he had a license to drive race cars or drive a ship to the moon. You have no right to loan a car to a minor. None. Now, I read your complaint and you said, well, you thought he had a license because you saw him driving around in his mother's car.
Mm-hmm. Yes,
Well,
Your
his
Honor.
mother wants to be a jerk and let him drive around in her car. That's her prerogative and her problem. But how do you know that his mother gave him permission to drive around in her car? Maybe he was just driving around in it when she wasn't home. Is that possible?
It could be, yes.
Sure. Does your son have a driver's license?
No, ma'am.
You ever give him permission to drive your car?
No.
You drive your mother's car?
Yes.
Where's your mother when you drive her car?
At home.
Does she know you drive her car?
No.
See what I mean? As a matter of fact, if he was injured while in your car that you let him borrow, she would sue you and would have collected. Do you understand? When you're dealing with a minor, and he's a minor, he's a stupid minor, and he's dishonest, right?
Yes.
You do not do anything that would require parental permission, because when you talk in terms of minors, they are referred to as minors in the law because they're too stupid to make their own judgments. He's too stupid to make his own judgment. And you gave him a weapon. Was April hurt?
No, ma'am.
Anybody hurt?
No, ma'am.
You are a very lucky man, sir. You should go home and thank your lucky stars that somebody isn't suing you and taking your house away. Your case is dismissed.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
Are in a parking lot. And Mr. Martinez says that the accident was both of your faults, so you should each pay for your own damage. You were all exiting a club that evening.
Right.
So what I'd like you to do is to go over to that chart that you've prepared and show me where the exit was.
This is the exit right here.
Okay. So there's a steady stream of traffic that's going sort of in the center.
Right.
And what happens is I assume that a car in the center lane lets one car in from one side and then another car goes, sort of alternating egress from the parking lot.
And there was police officers in the parking lot directing traffic.
Now, what kind of car were you driving?
A 2000 Chevy Malibu.
And Mr. Martinez?
A van.
So tell me what happened.
As I was trying to exit...
That was you. You're in the red.
This is me. I'm the red and he's the blue. So as they're exiting and I'm waiting in line for them to exit, I guess he got impatient and was in a hurry or whatever and tried to go around me. And his back van door was open. So as he's trying to go around me, his door caught my left bumper and my left tail light and shifted my trunk.
You have pictures of that?
No, I don't. I put it in the shop the next day, so I didn't take pictures.
Well, after his van door hit your car, what happened?
The police officer directing traffic directed us to pull this way and exchange information.
And you did that?
Yes.
You have a police report?
No, because it was on private property and there was no injuries, the police officer didn't take a police report, but he gave me a statement.
I'd like to see it. This is Police Officer M. There were 20 vehicles in the parking lot attempting to leave. Okay. So what I want you to do, sir, is to give me your version of what happened. Because I will tell you now, Mr. Martinez, the police officer observed what happened.
Okay.
So before you even think about trying to fabricate a story, I suggest you think hard about what happened.
Okay, I'm gonna tell you what happened. Well, that night, me and my friends threw a party at a club in Union City.
I don't care.
And,
listen to me. I don't care. Get to the parking lot.
Okay, the parking lot. Okay,
And
like I
look
say.
at me when you're talking.
Okay, we was partying. You know, everybody had a little liquor in them.
Not me.
No, just a second.
Okay, well.
You had a little liquor
I had a
in
little
you.
liquor in me. So I'm like, we was exiting the parking lot. And could I show you on the graph? All right, this is the parking lot. I guess this is how you get out. I'm right here, she right here. I'm going up. When I was coming up, she was coming back. So we both hit each other. The reason I didn't really file no counterclaim because I figured it was both our fault.
No!
That's why I did that.
Well,
where was I going?
Just a second, just a second. Get back there.
Okay.
First of all, you had no business being behind the wheel of a truck or a van or a vehicle if you had been drinking.
Yeah.
Because it clouds your judgment.
Right.
And let me tell you what the police officer said.
Okay.
The police officer said he observed a black van with its passenger side sliding door open as it was attempting to drive around Miss Farmer's vehicle. In trying to do so, the black van side door collided with the right rear taillight of Miss Farmer's car. Mr. Martinez continued driving along the side of Miss Farmer's vehicle, causing more damage. It appeared that Mr. Martinez did not realize that he collided with Miss Farmer's vehicle. You know why that was?
I realized.
All right. So let me see an estimate, please.
I got 2 estimates. The shop that I went to gave me a discount.
Okay, but you had it fixed.
Right.
Well, how much did you pay to have it fixed?
$827.60. Here's the receipt.
Good, great. And I'm surprised that as the police officer didn't cite you for driving while under the influence of alcohol.
I also have rental car receipts because I had to get back and forth to work, and I also had a daughter that needed to get back and forth to school.
Who do you live with?
I live by myself.
I'll see them.
The receipts are in my mother's name because she rented it, but I gave her the money, cash.
All right, the judgment's for $970. That's all. Step out.
Thank you.
You and the defendant were friends. There came a time, you're going to tell me about that time, when you lost your driver's license and you needed a car, you needed transportation. So you made an arrangement with Miss Hickman that you would purchase a car. The car would be titled in Miss Hickman's name. He would also pay for the insurance, with the understanding that she would take you to do your chores, take your children wherever they had to go. It is your complaint that subsequently you had a falling out and she stole your car. Ms. Hickman says nothing could be farther from the truth. It was her car. It was always her car. And when you came to pick up the car because of something that had to do with a boyfriend, you were so angry that you couldn't get the car that you smashed all of the windows in the car, and she has a counterclaim. When was this car purchased?
It was purchased on July 27th, 2005.
And what was the purchase price?
$4,000.
Where did you buy it?
We looked in the Penny Saver, and it was bought through somebody at a house, and then it was bought under A&M Auto.
Who went to look at the car?
Me and Nicole Hickman.
Why did you lose your driver's license?
For DUI.
How many DUIs?
I've been convicted of one. I was arrested for one previous, but I wasn't convicted.
Do you have your license reinstated at this point?
It'll be reinstated the day I get back to Daytona Beach, Florida. I'm eligible.
Who put down the down payment on the car?
I paid for the car in full, in cash.
Do you have any proof of that?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. You looked for a car together?
Right.
Why?
Okay, I had a 98 Contour that she had gave me a couple years back when she had lost her driver's license for the DUI.
Just a minute. When you say she gave it to you as a gift?
Yes.
That's untrue, Your Honor.
Well, this would be helpful to you. It shows what a nice person you are.
The car was wrecked, and it wasn't in the best condition. However, I made agreement with her that she paid for it to get out of impound, because I already purchased another car before this. I purchased an '89 Buick, and I did give her the title because she is my friend.
Okay. So you gave her the car?
For $250, and she was supposed to pay me $250 more.
Okay, but she didn't.
Over favors and stuff, we wrote that off.
Okay, go.
Okay, so the transmission on the car went out. Now, previous to her having the baby, Michaela, I had drove her around to doctor's appointments, wherever she needed to go, basically, which I had for years. I was going to get the transmission on the Contour fixed. We started looking at cars because I was going to go ahead and put... Okay. I was going to go ahead and put the money that I had for the transmission on my car, which was $1,500 at the time, towards a new vehicle, which she was like, you know, why don't you just get something new? We were going to get a place together. She was my girlfriend. She wasn't my friend.
That's untrue, Your Honor.
Go.
Okay, we looked in the penny saver. I found a Malibu. I had wanted a Malibu for a while since my friend here had purchased. I drove the car. I only had $2,000 at the time for the car. Shelly told me that she would go ahead and give me the rest of the money. She had just received a $30,000 settlement from a previous lawsuit that she had against an insurance company, and said that she would pay the remainder that I didn't have for the car. We were going to move in together. It would be my car, but it would get her around as well, and her kids. It was going to be like the family car, and that's what happened.
Show me proof that you paid $2,000 towards the car.
I don't have a proof that I gave her anything because I gave it to her in cash, but all I have is like my pawn slip where I pawned my necklace to get the Contour fixed, and I have forms of unemployment that I had. I know it's not proof that I gave her any money.
It isn't.
You're right.
All right, so we have proof and we have no proof.
I paid for the car in cash.
You don't have any proof.
I have a bill of sale.
No, the bill of sale said that you purchased the car.
Yeah.
So that you could register it. I understand. Okay. Who's Shelley Taylor? Who's Linda Taylor?
That's my mother.
So your mother gave you a $4,000 check.
Yes, ma'am.
So this check is not made out to the person who sold the car.
No, ma'am. They wanted cash.
Can I say something to that?
Got it. I got it. Now I got it. So you have this much proof. She has no proof. Good. Now, so what happened?
I got the car registered. She paid for my insurance. We went to a lady that she knew.
Okay, she paid the insurance.
That's right.
How much was the insurance?
Ma'am, it was $668.
So far you paid $2,668 according to you.
That's right.
Not according to her, but according to you.
That's right.
She paid for more than half of the amount necessary to get this car on the road, despite the fact that the car was titled in your name.
Right, but it wasn't
Just the facts, ma'am.
Okay.
So far, she paid for more than half to get this car on the road.
Okay.
Despite the fact that it's titled in your name, because she can't have a car titled in her name because she has no driver's
In the state
license
of Florida,
and she
you
can't get
can.
insurance. I'm speaking.
Sorry.
In what month did you two have a falling out?
On August 10th, according to her paperwork, which I'm not sure the exact date. I have a police report. She left her son with me on the 9th. I guess from what I found out, her ex-boyfriend that she had just had a baby with was getting out of jail, which I did not know because I was under the understanding that
Don't
me
tell
and
me
her
what
were
your
together.
understanding was.
Okay. So the old man gets out of jail. She leaves all night long with the car. I call her the next day. I have her son. Okay, I call her to get the car.
Did you take the car that day?
That's untrue, Your Honor.
Where was the car?
It was parked at my parents' house.
Just a second. You didn't use the car? Boyfriend
ma'am.
didn't use the car?
No, Your Honor.
Okay. Next.
So the next day, she comes to my house and gets her son in the car. I tell her that I need the car. She says no, that she is not giving me the car back. She took it
Who
to...
was driving?
She was driving.
No license.
That's right.
Got it. Go.
So she took the car and went to her mom. She took off before I even came down the stairs to even know what was going on. She grabbed her son, half of his things, left his shoes, everything, took the car, went to her mom's house. I called her. She said that her boyfriend was out, Ryan, they were getting back together, and she said that I wasn't getting the car back. So I went over there and with the police, well, not with the police at first, I just went to get the car. She came out with a hammer, started beating the car with a hammer. Her neighbors called the police. The cops came. They had made me tow the car because she took my registration.
Let me see the police report. You think the police tell the truth?
Yes.
You think that they are trained to do adequate reporting so that all the facts are contained in a police report?
No.
Well, they are. And according to the police, Ms. Hickman, you advised the police that the two of you bought the car together, you giving $1,500 towards the car and the plaintiff giving $2,500 towards the car.
Mm-hmm.
Shh. I didn't ask a question yet. So you told me a moment ago that you put in $2,000.
I did.
Well, were you telling me the truth or were you telling the police the truth?
I'm not sure if the police was going by her information
No,
or
the
mine.
police said, listen to me.
Okay.
Listen to me. N. Hickman, that would be you.
That's right.
Advised, that means said, told, conveyed, indicated. That means they were speaking to you. That the two bought the vehicle together. N. Hickman, that would be you, giving $1,500, and S. Taylor giving $2,500. So I'm going to get back to my question. Were you telling me the truth when you said that you gave $2,000 towards the car, or were you telling the police the truth?
I was telling you the police. I paid
You were telling you the police?
No, I
What
was
is that?
telling you the right. I paid $2,000 for
So
the
you
car,
were telling
ma'am.
me the truth
That's
and
right.
you lied to the police?
I guess if that's what it says.
Yeah, that's what it says. Your proof is getting better.
Thank you.
Because according to the police, the purchase date was the 28th of July, and your check from your mother to you was the 27th of July for $4,000. And one of the things you both agree on was that the purchase price of the car was $4,000.
That's right.
And you have no proof that you gave her either $1,500 or $2,000.
No, I
Is that
don't.
right?
That's right.
Good. It's getting better. Okay. Now, let's come back to you. Naughty, naughty. One should not have lost their temper. Why did you smash the car?
It was out of frustration because I've been friends with Nicole Hickman for over 6 years, and she put the trust in me that I could trust her, that we could do this together so I could have reliable transportation, and she completely broke my trust. She brought the police to my house and said I stole her vehicle. I was just so frustrated, Your Honor. I lost my temper.
Don't lose your temper. Have you ever lost your temper before?
Yes, ma'am.
Ever been involved with the police for losing your temper?
With my DUI.
So it was a DUI and you got into an altercation with the police?
Yes.
How many children do you have?
I have 2 children, Your Honor.
How old are you?
I'm 24 years old.
How old are your children?
3 years old and 2 months old.
And what was the father of this baby doing in jail?
Possession of crack cocaine, driving without a license. It was his first time seeing his newborn child. We are not together. He's incarcerated again, so I don't have to deal with him.
Miss Taylor, you're 24 years old, and so far what you've indicated to me is you're a 24-year-old with very lousy judgment.
Yes, Your Honor.
And until you grow up, I suggest you not have any more children.
I'm
and
not.
concentrate on the 2 that you have. And don't bring any bums into their life. You know, if you're going to be a bum magnet, that's your problem. But if you have children, you have to treat the children a little more carefully. You got it?
Yes, Your Honor.
Very good. Okay. Where's the car now?
It's in my possession. I have the title for it, everything. It's my car.
Good. Give it to me.
I also have information people she sued. I mean, this is something that she does.
Listen to me. I don't care how many people she sued, madam.
Okay.
I find that you have absolutely no stake in this car. You paid absolutely nothing towards this car. This is a copy of the title.
That's right.
Did you figure out how much it's going to cost to get the car fixed?
The estimate is $1,729.
Listen to me. Court will enter an order that the Department of Motor Vehicles is to transfer title to the car in your name. Do you understand that?
Yes, ma'am.
Because this is a copy, so I can't have her sign it.
Okay.
And I'm entering a judgment on your behalf in the amount of the car if she does not turn the car over to you. Do you understand?
Yes, ma'am.
Now, the damage to the car that you caused was $1,700.
Yes, ma'am.
You're going to have to eat that.
She had got a check from her insurance company already to fix the car.
Let me see.
Now, she knows the lady that works at this insurance
I
company.
pulled that off the internet. I had the policy number.
I don't care. Did you get a check?
Did I get a check?
From the
I haven't
insurance company.
received the check.
Payment was $1,229.
Right, I got a stub that says that I am allowed to take the vehicle and get it fixed.
Oh, fine. Turn that over to her. Good.
No,
Thank you. That's all.
Thank you.
I'm not giving the car back.
I'm not getting my car back?
Yes, you're getting it
She
back.
just said that, Your Honor.
Oh, yes, you are.
Thank you.
This is the former husband.
That's also correct.
How long were you married?
10 years.
You have 3 children.
Correct.
And am I correct that your husband has primary physical custody of the children?
That is correct.
As of when?
Actually, since from the time we separated, because of the fact I left the marriage. 4 years.
And you see the children how often?
Every Monday and Tuesday after school, every other weekend.
How far do you live from your former husband?
54 miles.
And who do you live with?
I live with my husband.
And you've been married for how long?
9 months now.
Your claim is that Miss Shively had you falsely arrested for stalking.
That is correct, yes.
And you want to be compensated. And Miss Shively says that she feared for her safety because of your behavior, and she had every right to have you arrested. So I'm coming to you, Miss Shively. Tell me what caused you to file the complaint, and I would like to read the complaint and see the police report that was generated by you.
There's some other documents.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay. On May 19th, Miss Sperry, that was the first contact I had with her, and it wasn't really contact. I noticed her following us. We were picking up some leaves. A neighbor had cut his trees down so we could see to drive around the corner. So we were out putting those into the truck to take them to the dump, and Miss Sperry kept driving back and forth. This was on a Thursday. It was not her day with the kids.
May 19th.
May 19th.
All right.
On May 19th, 10 a.m., I left my home to go to a doctor's appointment at where I have been going to the doctor for about the past 10 years. I arrived at 10 minutes after 11, saw the doctor, got the prescription filled, drove down 2 main roads in the neighborhood to go to the back side of it, where it's a large neighborhood, but it's got very main roads that people use all the time. To go to the back side, to go to the Wendy's drive-thru, get a grilled chicken sandwich, and go to work. At that time, I was in sales, and I worked in the immediate area.
Did you drive by their home on May 19th?
No.
Yes, you did.
When I got to the back of the neighborhood at a traffic light, I noticed a burgundy van in front of me. It's windowless. And I looked, and he's got plates that say on them. I thought, oh, crap, I'm right behind Jeff. I couldn't see in that van. There is not a single window on it.
Just a second. So what you're saying is you live about an hour away, and on May 19th, you were in the vicinity of their home. Okay, next.
But she had driven by 6 times before she was behind us in the burgundy van.
I got it. Go
Okay.
ahead. Keep going. What's
Okay.
next?
There were several other incidences. There was a June 7th incident. I had been taking her daughter, Allison, who's 11, to my tanning salon, not to tan, but she has some scars on her legs, and there's a spray type of tan you can use, and it covered them a little, so she was a little more confident. I never asked Beth. Jeff had given me permission to take her there, and Beth had gone into the salon, raised a scene. When I went in the next time, the ladies told me about it. I felt terrible, that I felt like I stepped on her toes, so I called her. And I said, listen, we need to talk. I didn't mean to do anything against you. I was just trying to help Allison, and is there a way we can do this together? And we met in a parking lot. I gave her my cell phone number at that time because her and her ex-husband don't get along at all, thinking that perhaps I could keep them from fighting in front of the kids, arguing back and forth, because I care about the kids. Started out, she would call asking for little things like to help with the kids, and that was fine, but then it turned into Bass Jeff sessions. How bad he is, how he's going to beat me in 2 years, how he's charming at first, but he beats women, and I didn't want to listen to that anymore. And I told her to stop contacting me. There became an incident.
Okay. Now let's go back to the incidents at the tanning salon. What happened at the tanning salon?
On the weekend prior to June 7th, my daughter happened to mention that she'd gone to the tanning salon with Wendy, and I said, oh, and I knew she was self-conscious of the scars. I understood completely. But I didn't really know who signed the paper, and in my mind, I didn't mind that she went. It wasn't a problem, so I did go by the tanning salon. I said,
why?
Just to see who signed the paper. I was just curious. It did have her signature, and I said, you know, she's really not her parent or guardian. She really shouldn't have signed that. So I signed one. I filled out consent forms for both of my daughters. I didn't object. I thought it was very nice that their father had met somebody finally after 3.5 years, and the girl spoke very nicely about Ms. Shively. I was thrilled that, you know, they had somebody to enjoy their time with as well.
That's very nice, but then I don't understand why you were curious to see who had signed the consent form.
Because...
Then I don't understand why you were curious enough to make a trip to the tanning salon to see who had signed the consent form, if it was a good thing. If their father has primary physical custody of the children, so certainly he can consent.
Oh, certainly.
And he can delegate someone else to consent. So I don't see, despite the fact that what you're saying now is all peaches and cream and all light and fluff, why you would go to the tanning salon and say, no, I'm going to sign a consent form.
I just, as a parent, just offered it because, again, I didn't want it to come back. But at the same time,
It
I
was
did.
stupid.
Yeah, it was. And again,
Okay.
I was only, I was on my way to pick up my children.
You were tweaked. You were tweaked and peaked. Did your husband receive custody of these children with your consent, or was it a court order?
No, it was with consent because he's the only one who lived in the school district. I lived 3 miles away, and we did not want them to be moved. So no, back in May of '03, we consented that he would have primary physical for school enrollment purposes.
So when you moved an hour away, you made no request and move with you?
No, I have not. Not at this point. I have.
Stand up a second. I have a couple of questions.
Okay.
Mr. Corey, am I correct that there has been no request by your former wife to change the custody arrangement?
She's tried in a roundabout way of doing it.
How?
Before Father's Day this year, that's one of the things that Wendy had a problem with her. She basically filled out some...
Okay, then let Wendy tell me. Why don't you sit down? What happened on Father's Day?
She showed up prior to Father's Day at my apartment. She called me and told me she had just dropped off her kids. I never gave her my address, mind you. She had just dropped off her kids.
How did you get her address?
I did not have her address. I just knew that she lived in an apartment complex on the back side of the neighborhood.
How did you know that?
My children talked to me, and the only thing is they said, Wendy lives where Dad used to live. And I said, where? And they said the apartments. And I said, oh. He had moved out to the apartment complex 4 years prior, and that's all I knew.
When she called and said she was coming over to bring something, I said, okay, I'll meet you. I didn't want her in my apartment because I was there by myself. So I asked her to meet me in front of the leasing office, well-lit public place. She supposedly had some document that changed the whole custody agreement between the two of them to a 50-50 arrangement. But she didn't give me that document. That's what she was bringing for me to take to Jeff to try to convince him to sign.
Do you have a copy of that document?
She does.
I have it here.
Can I
This
see
is
it,
the
please?
actual printed copy, and I wasn't trying to change anything. The only thing I was interested in doing was starting the weekend of Father's Day, which happened to fall on my weekend. He could actually have the children that weekend, and we would alternate from there.
What's the support order in this case?
A child support order from May 2003. That's
Yeah,
never been.
in what amount?
$473 a month.
Are you paying that?
It's not for me to pay, it's for him to pay me. Back when we separated, when we had 50-50, he made 3 times the money I made. So for a year and a half, when we had...
Just a second, I'm talking about right now.
Right now, there is no order in place for me to pay him. Since I have the children half of the week, and then on the weekends...
You don't have the children half the week. You don't have the children half the week.
I carry their health insurance, and again, he makes 3 times the money I make. So
I don't care.
There has not been a change with regard to that.
Well, there should be, sir.
I know there should.
Okay. Well, what is the September 2000, October 2004 order with regard to visitation?
I have those.
Well, I want to see it because that's what the court's affirming.
Yeah, we basically went to court 5 times.
I want to see the last order. Do you have it, sir?
No, I don't, but I think I could shed some light on this for you.
Please, stand up, because that's what I want to see. This last order here merely says that the order of October 22nd is modified to provide for overnight visitation, alternate weekends, Friday to Sunday. What you gave to her contains 7 things, including holidays, major parts of the summer, etc. Now, you want to shed light? I'm more than happy to hear you.
This is what happened. We basically had 50-50 custody with our kids. In our original paperwork, I put that if she moved more than 30 miles away from where we both lived, which I knew she was going to be moving out to the Fredericksburg, Culpeper area. She's had the same boyfriend even while she was still living in my house. That's kind of what happened here. She moved out there without telling me a word. When I found out, I went back to court. They basically said, the girls can't live out there with you. I ended up getting custody of my kids full time. And basically what she has now is she'll pick them up from me, drive them around in circles till she brings them back at 7 o'clock at night. It's a total fiasco. My kids are getting dropped off who knows where, and she doesn't even spend the time she has with them. That's a serious problem. They are 12, 11, and 7. My daughters are preteen, and they think they're going on 20. It's a problem. Their problem with me is I have rules. When they're with their mother, nobody's around to see if they're weighing the rules or not. You know, best thing that ever happened to me and my daughters, and I just think she's jealous. All I want is to be left alone. I never wanted child support from her.
Okay,
and
well,
I
you can't be
even
left
do that.
alone, sir, because you picked this lady to be the mother of your children.
I understand
and she's
that.
going to be the mother of your children forever.
But should I be penalized for being stupid at 24?
Well,
for the rest of my life?
Listen, should your children be penalized?
Absolutely not.
That's what I'm saying to you, sir. They have a mother. And for better or worse, they have two parents. It's not a good thing for them not to feel loved and supported by both parents. Now, children, in situations like this, where you live far away from each other and have to live with one parent or another, they're living with you. That's great.
Doing it.
That's great. And I can understand her perspective of she would like to have her children with her. She made her choices 4 years ago, and unfortunately, now she would like to have her choice and the children too. That's not going to happen. Do you understand that?
Oh, I understand.
Good. You can't have your choice, your heart, and your children. You left. That's it. That doesn't mean that she's going to leave you alone. She's not going to leave you alone, because that's what happens. She's not smart enough to leave you alone. She's not smart enough to say, this is it, this is the story, and she will continue to fight you for your children. Children will get older. You'll make a rule for your 15-year-old. You won't like a boyfriend. She'll say, I'm going to mommy. Get over it. It's going to happen. That's what happens when people get divorced. Now you can sit down. Now, tell me the rest of the stalking, madam, so that I can make a judgment with regard to this case.
Okay.
And move on.
The following at the tanning salon, the following me in the car, there were, all the instances are listed there. I don't remember them all now. Factored in with, I was afraid all the time because she didn't represent herself as a stable, sane person to me. And I don't mean to be mean, but that's what it was. So I was
Give me an
afraid.
example.
Trying to sneak over that custody agreement, she showed up with the custody agreement and then wouldn't even give it to me. She asked for my email, saying it wasn't dark enough for me to read. Could she email it? She was trying to gather more information. I handed her over my email address, though, thinking, great, it'll stop the phone calls, and she won't be bashing her husband. She'll be sending me email. But I'm afraid of her. The final straw was Father's Day when I picked her children up Father's Day evening at McDonald's. Was afraid they would get into it because it was a bad day for everybody. Picked him up. She came storming over to my car, yelling, give me Taylor's cell phone. His daughter had a cell phone, which her father took away because she was using it to deceive and lie to him. He gave Beth plenty of warning that he would take it away if he ever saw it again. She told her to sneak it in the house in her backpack and keep it on vibrate so her dad didn't know. So she was storming over at me, got right in my face. I rolled up my window and drove away, but I was very afraid of her at that time, and that's what precipitated the police report.
Anything else you want to tell me?
I would like to tell my side of the story because this is just totally made up. I did meet Ms. Shively for the first time on June 7th. She did call, asked if we could talk, indicated she didn't want to have any problems. I agreed. Talked for about 20 minutes, offered me her cell phone number. It was very nice. So I left and got the girls, and my daughter saw her at the pool standing at the fence with her son, so they walked over to say hi. I took a glass of water to want a cup, and Mr. Corey pulled up and said, make a new friend. I'd pass on that, and I left with my middle daughter. 5 minutes later, he called me and left me a very nasty email saying she sees right through you, that sort of scenario. He's basically saying, while I have my children with me, I'm stalking her.
Your children aren't with you when you have them.
On 5:30, I picked up the girls on 5:29.
Tell me about the incident with the cell phone.
With regard to the cell phone, I had given my daughter a cell phone back in October. I showed up to get her. Evening, I got a very nasty email from him telling me that he doesn't want me to come by anymore to get the girls to meet him at McDonald's. That's fine. At 6 p.m., I showed up at McDonald's. Ms. Shively was there to get the children. I got out of the vehicle with my daughters, walked to her car, and I said, did you bring the cell phone with me? I had left a message on Friday at his house saying I'd like to get my cell phone back. Did this in front of 3 people. It was not nasty. She said, no, I don't have it. And I said, well, can you go get it? And she said, no, he says he'll give it to you when you go to court. And I said, what does assault and my cell phone have to do with each other? She said, I don't know, don't put me in the middle. And I said, fine. And I walked away, got in my car, I drove to the police station, which was a couple miles away, and I told the officer, he's got my property. I've been going through this kind of abuse for 4 years. I want my cell phone back.
Where were your girls when you went to the police station?
They had just left with Ms. Shively, so I went by myself.
So you dropped the children off and you went to the police station?
Correct, because I did want my property returned to me. He had no right to confiscate it.
Just a second. You had no property.
I had a
No, dear. You gave the cell phone to your daughter. Listen to me. That's a gift. It's not your property.
Okay.
Okay. So let me tell you, I have to make a judgment as to whether or not your action. Just listen.
Okay.
whether your actions were sufficient to cause her to feel fearful enough to seek a protective order. And I'm going to refer to two things, two objective things that you did, because I don't know, I wasn't there. I couldn't tell, based upon what either one of you tell me, whether or not you were making calls to her and saying bad things about him. I can't tell whether or not you were, in fact, driving back and forth. There's no videotape of you driving back and forth, but you did two things that suggest to me that you're more angry than you seem. I'm speaking. That you're more angry than you would seem to want to convey to me. One, for no apparent reason, you went to the tanning salon because you were curious about who signed the consent. There was no reason for you to be curious. Your former husband has physical custody of these children. He can do whatever he wants to do. I assume it was in the children's best interest. As a matter of fact, you agree that it was in the children's best interest, but your nose was tweaked as to who signed the consent. And not only did you go there, but once you saw that she had signed the consent, you said to them, she's not their mother, I'm their mother, give me the forms, I will sign the consent, because that's what objectively you did. The second thing you objectively did was, after you dropped the children off in June, with regard to this cell phone, instead of just saying, listen, I'm not going to get myself exercised over this cell phone, I'm going to the police. The police? Over a cell phone? And you knew why he had taken the cell phone away from her. He took the cell phone away from her because she wasn't doing the right thing. Miss Shively probably had good cause to file a complaint against you. In any event, your complaint for false arrest is dismissed. Case is dismissed. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
The subject of this case was appeared to me to be a little bit upset about being here. I don't think it's necessary for her to be here. If it is, I'll have to see her in chambers. Clear?
Yeah.
All right. Mr. White, you and Mr. Flores are neighbors?
Yes.
And your children played together for some period of time until recently?
Yes, Your Honor.
It is your claim that Mr. Flores is responsible for some damage that his daughters did to your car?
Yes.
You fixed the car, and you really want Mr. Flores to pay your insurance deductible, which is $500.
Yes, Your Honor.
And Mr. Flores says that there's no evidence that his girls caused any damage to your car.
Yes, Your Honor.
Who caused the damage to your car and when, Mr. White?
Well, on October the 13th, I was working 3 to 11. When I came home that evening, I noticed some damage on my car.
You have photographs of it?
Yes, I do.
I'd like to see it, please. What was it, chalk?
It was chalk, and it was like someone had scribbled on the back of it.
It's hard to see in these photographs.
Yeah, it's
but
hard because of the color of the car.
Yeah, but I do see sort of circular motions.
Yes.
Got it. Now, you weren't there. What makes you think his girls did the damage?
I have a witness that saw this occur.
Well, then I'll hear the witness. Bert, can we get a witness? I assume they're outside.
How you doing?
Swear the witness, please.
Sir, raise your right hand. Do you swear to tell the truth in these matters?
Yes, sir.
State your name for the record, please.
Alfredo Warren.
Mr. Warren, are you a neighbor of these people?
No, ma'am. I stay in South Bend, Indiana.
Okay. Mr. White said you observed something that happened with his car.
Yes, ma'am.
Are you a friend of his?
No, ma'am.
What were you doing near his house?
I was up there visiting with some friends, and on this particular day, I was sitting in the car while someone else went in the house. And I just noticed 2 small kids of they wasn't black, but they was like maybe mixed or Mexican or some kind of race. And the smallest one was riding on the car from like the trunk part, and I seen her go around the side.
And what was the other one doing?
Sitting like on the sidewalk.
Go ahead.
So the next day, when I was coming back to drop this girl off, I so happened to see the person that was getting to the car that had been rode on.
Was that this gentleman?
It was this gentleman. So I asked him, did he have kids? And I said, well, I think I seen your kids riding on your car. And so he said, no, it wasn't my kids, but my car was vandalized yesterday. And I told him if he needed any help, I just gave my number. And then I got a call at work, and I heard about the whole issue.
Would you recognize those children again?
Yeah, probably if I seen them, yes, ma'am.
Would you recognize the older child?
Well, I mainly just seen the small one riding on the car.
Did you see the one who was sitting down?
She was like at the head of the car. So I just noticed a head, you know, like you just glance, because I'm looking through my rearview mirror, and so that's how I seen it.
Do you recognize this young lady here?
I don't know if that's the youngest one, because she was shorter, and this was like, it's been like some months ago.
Okay. Bird, would you take Mr. Warren outside to where Mr. Flores' youngest daughter is and ask him if he has seen her before? Okay?
All right.
Mr. Warren, why don't you go with Officer Bird? Now, before Mr. Warren comes back, you step up here. Right over here. You hop up in that chair. Tell me. All right, Jessica. So before this gets any worse, did your sister ride on Mr. White's car?
No.
You sure about that?
Yes.
Do you know anybody who damaged Mr. White's car?
No.
And you weren't present that day, sitting there while your little sister either took a piece of chalk or anything else and rode on Mr. White's car?
No.
You sure about that?
Yes.
Okay. Go and have a seat. All right, Mr. Warren, did you see the little girl who was outside?
Yes, ma'am.
Do you recognize that
That's
little
the
girl?
child. That's the one I seen.
That's the little girl who rode on the car?
Yes, ma'am.
Prior to October 13th, you had never met the plaintiff, is that right?
Yes, ma'am.
Are you positive that the other young lady that you saw outside, the little four-year-old?
Yes, ma'am. That's the one I seen right on the car.
Okay. What do you have to say for yourself, Mr. Flores?
They running a game.
What?
I said they running a game because she don't go outside without her sister. So I don't know what he talking about that he see my only 4-year-old outside.
Listen to me very carefully, sir. Nobody's running a game. Your daughter fibbed to you. This one. This man doesn't know him. I believe him. That's my job.
Oh, okay.
To determine who's telling the truth.
All right.
He didn't say to me, yes, I recognize her. He said, I'm not sure. It's been a while ago.
Right.
But when he went outside and saw your little girl, who he was watching right on the car, he was able to identify her, and I believe him. So you better have your girls a little bit more in check. Anything else you want to say to me?
Yeah, I think she didn't do it.
Well, you keep going in that direction, and you're going to be standing in court a lot with your daughters. A lot. I've given you all the reasons. Somebody rode on his car and vandalized it. I'm speaking. You may get away with that with your wife. You don't get away with it with me. We have an independent witness who saw 2 children, one older, one younger. The younger one was riding on the car. And he says there's no question in his mind it was your daughter. And you said, I don't believe it. Why? Your daughters never lied to you?
No.
Baloney.
They ain't the only ones that live in. They ain't the only little girls that live in the block.
Just a second. He said it was your daughter. Certainly they're not the only children living on the block.
He don't even live around there.
Oh, you're an
He
idiot.
live in Sound Bay.
You're an idiot. You're going to spend a lot of time in court, both for yourself and your children. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $500. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
That you knew?
Yes.
And you had an arrangement. He gave you a deposit, and he took possession of the boat. He was supposed to pay you the balance in a week or so. He never paid you the balance. You want the balance on the boat.
Correct.
And Mr. Graham says that he relied on your friendship, that this was a good boat. It ended up being a lemon, and you ripped him off, and he's not paying anymore.
Yes.
How old are you, sir?
23.
You work?
Yes.
What kind of work do you do?
I'm a plumbing company.
Very good. So you're in business?
Yes.
You deal with contracts, is that right?
Yes.
When did you buy the boat, sir?
It would have been the end of August.
Give me the date.
August 18th.
And that's when you agreed, is that right?
Correct.
Yes.
What was the price you agreed on, Mr. Graham?
$3,500.
So there was an offer to sell the boat and an acceptance of the price, correct?
Correct.
Was this a verbal contract?
Yes.
And you gave her a deposit?
Of $800.
And you took possession of the boat?
Correct.
And then what happened, Mr. Graham?
I bring it out to the lake to test drive it, and I wouldn't run.
Why didn't you make an arrangement with Miss Schumacher for a test drive of the boat before you bought it?
Because she was a family friend, so if there was any problems, we could work it out.
Who said that?
It's an assumption.
What did you do with the boat?
I bring it to a mechanic, spent $1,200.
Just a second. Did you take it out on the 18th? Or did you take it out later?
It might have been the 19th, I don't remember.
Was it the 18th or the 19th?
He purchased it on the 18th. I tabbed and licensed it for him the morning of the 19th. Then he took it from the property about 10 a.m. in the morning, I believe.
On the 19th?
On the 19th.
When did he call and tell you he was having trouble with the boat?
On the 20th.
Okay. And you took it to your mechanic, you put in $1,200.
Mm-hmm. Correct.
And you were satisfied that it was done?
Yes.
So you took it back to the water. When?
It would have been roughly about a week after I purchased it by the time he was done the work.
So the 27th?
Yeah, roughly. So I bring it back out, and now with it running correctly, I hit the throttle, and the whole transom with the motors mounted to almost broke right off the boat.
Mm-hmm.
And the gas tank came completely disconnected and spilled gas all over the floor of the boat.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm in the middle of the lake with a boat full of gas, and the transom's completely cracked.
When was the last time, Mr. Graham, that you drove this boat?
Early September.
No, I'm talking about before you purchased it.
I've never drove the boat in my life before I purchased it.
You purchased the boat. You waited until the boat was titled in your name till the next day. Then you came and got it. You had trouble with it. You buy a used boat. That sometimes happens. You took it to your mechanic. Your mechanic had the boat for an entire week. And I'm not prepared to say that whatever he did to the boat had no causal connection to what the trouble was that you ultimately had with the boat. I don't know, quite frankly. All I know is that you and Ms. Schumacher had a contract, and you have to abide by the terms of that contract. Do you understand?
Not completely, no.
Well, I tried to explain it to you in the most simplistic terms I can. Would you like me to use monosyllables?
No, maybe you could explain the part about if you have a contract and she says it runs good and it's structurally sound and it's not. Doesn't that void a contract?
You have a writing that says that she is selling this boat in good running order, no mechanical problems, and you're buying the boat contingent upon that? Do you have that?
No, it was a verbal contract.
Your verbal contract is the simplistic one, Mr. Graham, because if I were to ask her whether she tells me that she guaranteed to you when you purchased that boat that she said it was structurally sound and mechanically sound, what do you think she's going to tell me?
Your Honor, I did tell him the boat was running well.
You told him it was running well. The last time you rode the boat was when?
The summer before, which would have been the end of August, last week in August.
So you hadn't driven in it
That's right.
for 1 year?
Right. It was parked for the winter because it's a small ski boat and you don't take it out in winter.
The last time you rode the boat, was it running well?
Ran fine.
Did you know the boat had been sitting there for a year?
Yes.
Out of the water?
Yes.
Mr. Graham, you owe her the money. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $2,200. That's all.
In Tucson, where he's working out in the field and he's staying in a motel, so he has limited access to clothes other than his work clothes.
Could you bring him a pair of long pants?
But I just...
I mean, he's not going to the beach.
I know, and I apologize. Okay. I just wasn't thinking.
Ms. Mellinger, this is your complaint. Mr. Scott is a friend of your son's. Are you wearing long pants?
Yes, I am, Your Honor.
According to your complaint, the two of them went off oil drilling something, got a job someplace, and they were rooming together. And according to you, you made a loan to Mr. Scott in the amount of $500 because he was short on cash. Stand up on your own 2 feet with your long pants, Mr. Scott. Mr. Scott says that you sent money, but you sent money at your son's request to your son. There was never an agreement by him to pay you back. That's your defense.
Yes, Your Honor.
This is your mother?
Yes, this is my mom, Charlotte.
Okay. Where did you go to work, Mr. Scott?
Well, at the time we were stationed in Nevada, and then the following hitch we were supposed to go down to Tucson.
And where is your home?
I live in Spokane, Washington.
How old are you?
20.
Were you paying your own way when you went to do this oil drilling?
Yes, I was.
You paid your own rent?
Not at home, no.
I'm talking about when you lived with him, when you were working. You were living together, correct, in a motel?
Correct.
Who was paying the bill?
He was.
Why?
Because I was unemployed before that, and we agreed that we would split the motel costs after I got paid, and I hadn't got paid until 2.5 weeks into the hitch.
Okay, and once you got paid, did you give him back the money?
No. Payments, and...
Am I scaring you? Am I scaring you?
No.
That's too bad. I must try harder. Now, you went to live with Dustin and you had an agreement, and your agreement with Dustin was, quite reasonably, that you would go to this place where you could both work and make a good living, make some money, and that you would split the room. But you didn't have any money.
Right.
So what Dustin does is he calls his mother and says, Mom, Kenny doesn't have any money. So I'm going to need some money to tide us over.
We talked about this agreement before we even left town. I said, I'm going to be broke. I'm going to not have any food. I'm going to need some help.
And?
He didn't help me with food or anything. He just paid for the hotel room, gave me a place to sleep.
Who paid the rest of the money? Your mother?
My mom had wired me some money for
How much did your mother wire you? No, don't look at her. I'm asking you, how much did your mother wire you?
$200.
About $200. And I'm sure your mother has proof of that, right?
Yes.
Right?
I Western Union the money and tried to get the receipt from them, and we didn't have time to get that.
Baloney. How much was the motel room?
Well, the first one we stayed at was a little higher price.
How much was the hotel room?
It's about $25 a night.
And how many nights were you there?
The first one we were there maybe about 4 or 5, and then we switched over because that hotel was run down.
Stand up. No, I can't stand to look at your knees. Over here. $25 a night. And what was the second room?
Second room was the same. $25 a night, 25.
And how many nights in total were you there?
The second room?
Both rooms.
Both rooms.
Dustin.
Okay. The first hotel was about 5 days, and the second hotel about 21 days in the second hotel, something like that.
So you worked a total of 26 days?
Yes.
$650 plus tax, right? So it probably comes to close to $800. Did you, in fact, give Dustin back $400?
No, I didn't, Your Honor.
Why not?
Well, it was told to me that I owed his mother. I did not owe Dustin.
You owed somebody for half the motel room.
I realize that.
So my question is, why didn't you pay it to either Dustin or his mother?
I started to pay it to his mother.
You did?
She agreed that $100 a month would work, and I gave her $100
good.
cash.
Right.
And next thing I knew, I had a letter in the mail saying we're going to court.
Did he give you $100 in cash?
Yes, ma'am. He did give me $100 in cash.
Did you write 2 checks to Mrs. Mellinger
Yes, I did.
on an account that didn't have any money?
Yes, Your Honor.
Don't encourage him. He did the wrong thing. You're 20 years old.
Mm-hmm.
When you have a debt in this world, you're supposed to repay it. You're not supposed to take money from strangers and then make them enemies by not paying them back. Do you understand?
Yes, I do.
The quickest way to lose a friend is to loan them money. I want you to remember that forever.
I will.
If you're a good guy and you lend somebody money, you lend a friend money, there's only one thing that I know for certain. You're going to lose that friend and you're going to be the bad guy. That's a lesson your mother should have learned a long time ago.
Your Honor, I've told Dustin that time and time again, but I am the guilty one here.
Well, you're the guilty one.
I
Because
didn't
here's
do
a
what I
young man
normally do.
who has a mother. If he needed money, he should have called his mother.
Right.
Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $400. That's all. This young lady is your daughter, and the co-defendant is her boyfriend. They have a couple of children together. They are not married.
Correct, ma'am.
It is your claim that you made a loan to them,
Yes,
a loan in the amount of, I believe, $4,000,
Yes, ma'am.
that they were supposed to pay you back. They didn't do that.
Correct.
Your daughter and the boyfriend say that this was not a loan, this was a gift, because they had fallen on some hard financial times, and that you became more and more obsessed with getting this money back, an obsession that rose to the level of harassment. They are counterclaiming, claiming that you not only harassed them, but that you vandalized Mr. Mayer's car.
Yes.
How old are you?
I'm 20.
How many children do you have?
I have 2.
How old are they?
They are 2 and 6 months.
Is Mr. Mayer the father of both of those children?
Yes.
What do you do for a living?
I was a forklift driver.
Well, how long ago were you a forklift driver?
A few weeks ago.
And how long were you a forklift driver?
For about 6 months.
Before that, what did you do?
Forklift driver at another job.
Why do you keep changing jobs?
Because Mr. Gatewood keeps calling on my jobs.
Yes, ma'am.
So it's somebody else's fault. It's not your fault that you lose these jobs.
Right.
Mhm. How much did you make at your job?
I was making $8.50
$8.50
hour.
That's not a lot of money.
No, ma'am.
Can't support yourself and 2 children on $8.50 an hour. So what do you do for a living?
I stay at home with the children.
Well, you can't afford to do that.
Well, right before this job, he had a job that paid $12.90 an hour.
$12.90 an hour, a virtual windfall. You think you can support a family on $12.90 an hour gross?
I think that's a pretty good amount.
And when did you lose that job?
November.
And you went right to work for somebody else?
Yes.
When did they call and ask you for money?
About the first part of February of this year, your ma'am.
Now, if you were working in February, what did you need money for? Look, don't go like that. I don't know. If he's working as a forklift operator at a job that he can support a wife and 2 children, girlfriend, excuse me. Why did you call your father for money?
Pretty much he continued to lose every job right around 3 weeks. And each time the boss of the job would call and say, I'm sorry, we have to let you go. But there's a complaint that we got from a person calling in. And
a boss doesn't fire him if he's doing a good job because some stranger calls that he doesn't know and says he's not doing a good job. That doesn't make sense, Miss Gatewood. Okay, so you called your father and said that you needed money.
we actually called him and said, could we stay with you for a while until we got something saved up?
So, Miss Gatewood, so you called the person who you thought was responsible for your husband, I keep saying that, I must be old-fashioned, for your boyfriend losing his jobs, job after job after job. So what you did was call him and say, could we come and stay with you?
I asked for me and the kids to come and stay.
I'm trying to get where you're coming from. You call the person who you believe is responsible for all your bad luck and say, can we come and stay with you? And what did your father say?
He said we could stay for a few days, but he'd like to try to find us a place to stay for us to be stable.
Okay. And you said?
I said that'd be great.
And?
We went looking for mobile homes. We finally found one that we could buy for $1,000. So he told us that he would get us a loan to help build my credit.
Great. So you went to the bank?
Yes.
And what happened to the bank?
We got a $4,000 loan that my dad agreed he would pay. I didn't have a job at the time. Chris knew nothing about it.
Chris knew nothing about it. When you moved into this mobile home that you found, he wasn't going to move in with you?
Chris wasn't any part of the loan. He was going to live with me.
Just answer my question.
Yes, he was going to live there.
Well, if he was going to live there, where did he think that you got the money from?
I told him my dad was going to help us out. That's what we were told. It was going to be a gift.
Is that right, sir?
No, ma'am.
All right, Mr. Gatewood, do you want to tell me your version of what happened with your daughter and this money?
Yes, ma'am. At approximately first part of February of this year, my daughter called me crying, saying that she was being evicted from her apartment. Said they had no money for gas, no money for food. It was snowing. They wanted to know if they could come with me. I said, you and the girls can. That young man can't hold a job. He's not welcome. I got off the phone. About 20 minutes later, I called my daughter back. She was upset. I said, I tell you what, I'm going to help you. It's going to be a loan. You got a tax return coming. You can pay me back part of it this year and part of it next year. At that time, that loan will establish your credit. It will also gain you new residency, which it did. We got a trailer for her, 14 by 70, 1974 trailer. Got her a washer and dryer. Got her a couch. Got her a refrigerator. And
when you say you got her, did she go with you shopping?
Yes. Yes, we actually purchased a trailer.
The washer and dryer came with it.
The washer and dryer and the couch basically came with
the refrigerator he got from work.
Okay.
For free.
That's
now,
correct.
You took out, according to you, a $4,000 loan. The trailer was, according to your daughter, $1,000. What happened to the rest of the money?
That's correct. We gave the actual person that we bought the trailer from $2,800.
No, we
for
did
what?
not.
For the trailer and all the belongings in the trailer, for the furnishings.
You have proof of that?
All I have is the loan, ma'am.
Well, I'd have to know what happened with the money.
Well, I gave her the cash to help.
Look at me.
I gave her cash so they could pay their car payment so they wouldn't lose their car.
Okay.
That's not correct.
How much money did your father give you?
He gave us $1,000 for the mobile home, $500 paid for the washer, dryer, couch, and stove that came with it, and $500 towards lot rent and starting all our utilities up.
So he actually gave you $2,000?
Yes.
Okay, go ahead.
That's not true, Your Honor. We gave the gentleman $2,800, and the other $1,200 I gave to my daughter. I did not give it to him. I gave it to her in cash.
Okay. Now, they're supposed to pay you back with their tax return, but something happened, Mr. Gatewood, according to your complaint, that irritated you. Your daughter said, according to you, she said she couldn't make the first payment.
Correct.
So you went to the bank and made the payment. That was $300 and some odd.
$375, yes, ma'am.
Then what happened, sir?
From that time, she basically asked for me to pay her lot rent as well. And I promptly went straight up there within the hour and paid her lot rent.
How much was the lot rent?
$300.
What were you doing all this time?
I was working.
Why wasn't your rent being paid?
Actually, he went up there himself and paid it off, and then
But why
gave her
wasn't
a
your
phone
rent?
call.
Listen to me. He would not have known to pay the lot rent unless somebody told him that the lot rent hadn't been paid.
Well, our deal
I'm
was...
not asking you. Why hadn't you paid the lot rent?
Because I haven't had my first check yet.
So your lot rent was not paid. Your food was not paid if you didn't have any money. So you were using the money, is that right, Mr. Maher, that he gave you?
I never had money.
Well, you were eating, weren't you? You weren't on life support.
She has food stamps that she gets food from and everything.
Why would she have food stamps?
Because
She's
if
on
we
Medicaid.
keep struggling, we're never getting
Well,
it.
if you keep struggling, what'd you have another baby for? You think that was going to make it easier? Okay. Did you get your tax return back?
Yes.
How much did you get?
I think altogether about $4,500.
And it didn't dawn on you to pay your father back for this loan?
No, we were never told to pay him back.
Well, you're here now. And he must have said something before you arrived here today.
We were told it was a complete gift.
You were told that by your father?
Yes.
So between February and March, when he came to the house and told you that he wanted some money, because that's what you say in your answer, you think he had a psychotic breakdown?
My dad
you think he had a psychotic breakdown?
I think he goes through different moments where one day he wants to be our friend and the next day he doesn't.
That's not be your friend, and one day he doesn't want to be his friend until he grows up and accepts responsibility for making 2 children and holding down a job regularly. What I'm asking you is if your father comes and says, look, I took out a loan. I need you to pay me back part of it now and part of it next year, and you just got $4,500, why you wouldn't do that? Why you wouldn't do that? It's your money. You're the one who works. She doesn't work. She gets food stamps.
Every time they went to do something with whatever they were doing with the money or whatever, he came over and got her. And they left and did whatever they did. I stayed at home with the kids those times. Never knew anything, never signed
Well,
anything.
Mr. Mayor, I don't believe that you never knew anything. I believe that he came and got
Well,
her.
I
and
knew
he
where
wanted
they
to
were
know-
going, yeah.
You knew what they were going. You knew what they were going for, right?
Yes.
It's just that Mr. Gatewood didn't want to deal with you. He doesn't approve of the fact that you made 2 children. You have his daughter living from hand to mouth. She's not helping herself, but certainly you're not stepping up to the plate and assuming the responsibility of a head of household. So he doesn't want to have anything to do with you until you grow up. I could understand that. So he takes his daughter. That doesn't mean you're a defendant, because I don't think that you made your arrangement with him. I think you made your arrangement with her.
I made it with both of them, ma'am, and he knows that.
No, no, no. Even you tell me that you didn't make the arrangement with him. You went to the bank with her.
Not initially on the phone, ma'am, but when I went over to their trailer or to their apartment before I went to the bank, I told them that that's what was going to happen. I was going to go
Just
to the bank.
because you told them that was going to happen, sir, does not a contract make.
Yes, ma'am. I understand that.
That's a parent saying, this is what you're going to do.
Sure.
And unless you have somebody said, fine, offer, acceptance, then you don't have a contract.
Yes, ma'am.
So I think your agreement was with your daughter. And I don't believe her when she says it was an absolute gift. Otherwise, you wouldn't have come over to the house to try to get payment.
He came over to the house because we quit talking to him. We just wanted nothing to do with him. He started...
Well, why would you have nothing to do with him before he took out a loan for you as, according to you, a gift for $4,000?
Because
according to you. Why would you want to all of a sudden have nothing to do with him?
Because they all of a sudden wanted nothing to do with us. They didn't have us come over. My mom never came to see my daughters, nothing.
You're talking about 2 weeks? You're talking about from February to March?
Yeah, my mom would come over at least like twice a week and see them, and she just quit coming over, quit caring.
Oh, you're just a victim. You're a terrible victim. What do you think? You think both your mother and your father had psychiatric problems during those 2 weeks?
No.
Well, what do you think happened?
I don't know. I think they got money greedy and...
They got money greedy?
Yes. I think we deserve that money because as many jobs as my dad has cost Chris.
Miss Gatewood, if you believe the fact that your father caused Chris to lose his job, you better have a head adjustment. He may have convinced you of that, but the truth of the matter is, that's a lot of baloney. A lot of baloney. Do you think I'm a smart lady?
Yes.
They don't keep me around here because I'm 5'6" and gorgeous. They keep me around here because I'm very, very smart. And I have a history with people. Things make sense or they don't make sense. Parents who are faced with the fact that their daughter has had 2 illegitimate children with a man who can't hold down a job, but who seems to be in love with him and seems to at least want to try to make a life with him, don't sabotage that by getting him fired from his job so that their daughter will be out in the cold with her 2 children.
I believe it's a control thing. Like, he always wants to know where I am, everything. He's always tried to bring me back to his house.
No, he's not. You called him and asked if you could come home, and he said you can come home for a while, but I'd much rather see you in your own place. He doesn't want you to come home with the 2 children. He doesn't want to be a parent to your 2 little children.
He doesn't want to be a grandparent either.
Oh, Miss Gateway, you are truly a victim. Maybe you found the perfect foil. What you are is a big baby who has babies, but who made an agreement with your father And then he said, I'm not giving him my $4,500. There's no way. I didn't make an agreement with him to give him $4,500. And you don't have $4,500 because you don't work. And that's what started the problem with your father. Because if you believe that your father was the cause of all of your troubles, you have to be crazy to call him up and to say, can I come home with the girls? So you really didn't believe that because you could have called his parents and said, we're being evicted. You didn't call them. You called the terrible people who were sabotaging your life. Grow up. Because your tears don't make it with me. I guarantee you, they shed more tears than you did. No. Bad people. They're really bad people. The fact that you picked somebody who can't hold a job and who can't accept the responsibility for children that he made, that's their fault too.
He's there for his kid and he tries.
Well, he shouldn't be there for his kids. He should be working. You're there for his kids. And you should be working too. And in addition to food stamps, as long as you're not married, which is one of the reasons you get food stamps, along with the food stamps, there are federal programs that give you free daycare. Put your kids in daycare and get a job.
I had a bad influence with the daycare one time. One of my daughters got hurt.
Also, somebody else's fault. So get another daycare. And you don't solve your problem by making another baby.
I know.
Maximum limit that you're suing for is $3,000 on your complaint. On your complaint, I'm awarding you the $3,000 because that's the maximum in your jurisdiction. I have a counterclaim. Counterclaim says, Mr. Gateway, that you put sugar in Mr. Marr's gas tank.
That is not true.
Go ahead. Prove it.
We got a call from him about 5 minutes before.
Who's we?
Chris received the call. I was over there and also Chris's best friend. And he said...
Wait just a second. You were over where?
I was at the house.
But you didn't get the call?
No. I wasn't answering any phone calls.
Fine. Then you tell me what the call was.
I'll answer it. It's Mr. Gatewood, and he says, well, since you guys aren't going to cooperate with me now and blah, blah, blah.
No, I don't want to hear blah, blah, blah. Blah, blah, blah I can get when I speak to my 3-year-old grandchild. I want to hear what he said to you, Mr.
He said,
Marr.
since you guys don't want to cooperate with me now.
Don't want to cooperate. Those are the words he used? Since you guys don't want to cooperate with me, go ahead.
There's sugar in your gas tank, and I hope it blows up.
So what did you do?
We went out and checked the gas tank.
Immediately hung up the phone, went outside. Me and my friend went outside. I opened the gas tank, see some white substance at the bottom. Checked my friend's truck. There's more on his than mine. I guess he thought I'd bought a new truck. We called the cops. They came over, took a report.
And the cop states in the report that there is.
Don't tell me what the police said. I'll see the police report.
I think it's on like the 3rd page.
Who blacked this out?
The police station does it.
Fill in the blanks. Mayor, that's you. This is what you told the police. Stated that the problem stemmed from a loan that blacked out, co-signed for blank. That's what you told the police. According to Mayor, you have been harassing them for the last couple of days, including calling their home constantly. Prior to calling the police, he was speaking to you on the phone. Conversation quickly became heated and turned into an argument. While they were speaking, you told Mayor he put sugar in the gas tank of his car. Mayor and your friend then checked the gas tank of both their vehicles and saw crystal-like substance, so Mayor called the police. So here, Miss Gatewood, your boyfriend acknowledges that this was a loan. Was there anything wrong with your car?
Yes.
Uncross your hands. You have either the estimate or the cost of fixing it?
No, I don't.
Well, where is it?
I let my friend fix the filter of my car.
So you had no damages?
No, you had to change the whole complete
I had to change the filter
filter
of my gas tank.
Well, where's the bill?
I paid him $100 to go get the filter and fix my car.
So what you're telling me is you have no proof that there was any damage done to your car.
Right.
You owe your father $3,000. Who knows whether he's going to be forever? When people get married in this country today, there is a 52% chance that the marriage will terminate. When people start off like the two of you starting off, the expectation is that statistically you will not know what he looks like in 5 years. Very great. You only have in your life 2 parents. Those 2 people. I would suggest that you think about that. I would also suggest that you think about the fact that certain things make sense and certain things don't make sense. And if it doesn't make sense, it's usually not true. And the fact that he has convinced you that the cause of his problems at work is your father is just ridiculous. It doesn't make sense. And if it doesn't make sense, it's not true. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $3,000.